And welcome to another wrestling episode here from Red Leaf Retrocast, the RLR proper. I am JD, and now I am officially doing a little format change. I'm going to begin with kind of myself and what's going on, a little preview for what's to come in the episode, and I'm starting off with women's wrestling and whatever I want to talk about here, along with the AJW Classics recaps and reviews. From there, it will be Rickee and myself doing AEW, New Japan, and the like. There's some Dragongate there as well, maybe CMLL if it pops up on my feed every now and again. And the last thing will continue to be WCW Nitro, as the episode today is the first Nitro of the year 2000. So figured we're about halfway through summer here, a little over, and with WCW Nitro 2000 starting, figured it'd be a format change. Usually like to do it annually. Obviously, we're halfway through the year here, halfway through July, and something about right now just feels right. So on this episode, we'll be doing, we'll be talking some LPGA and golf in general, so if you're not into golf and what it kind of entails, look into the description and you will see when I begin the Joshi wrestling talk and the like there. So keep, skip ahead if you want. But in the Joshi section, it'll be TJPW's Summer Sun Princess Show, followed by Stardom, and then some previews, probably in between the TJPW and Stardom, but Stardom will be MidSummer Champions. Did not, upon recording this episode, get to watch the Cork and Hall show with the Generation Battle elimination match, which I was really looking forward to. I kind of want to watch that entire Corkin, to be honest, so I've been waiting for that to go up, along with a number of different things coming up with Stardom lately. We got the Grand Prix starting upon this episode coming out probably a week from now. And there'll be a lot to talk about with Stardom going forward for the next couple of months, along with TJPW's Princess Cup. Then from there, it's the AJW Classics, also in July. I think the same date, actually, when this episode's coming out, July 16th, 1994. So, almost 30 years ago to the date, which is kind of funny. So that will be a Classics episode of July 1994, a nice little episode there. And from there, it will be AEW, Collision, and Dynamite recap, if you're interested in that. Kind of a rundown and a heat check over what AEW's up to. New Japan's G1 is starting, but on this episode, it will be the Independence Day shows with the Julia Willow Nightingale match, along with a lot of Jon Moxley and El Desperado, which is kind of cool. I did talk some Dragongate. Dragongate Kobe World happened, and I don't know if it's a hot take per se over what's going on in Dragongate, but just kind of my own personal feelings over what's going on in the promotion. Not sure if that's going to be before all the AEW and New Japan talk, but definitely something along those lines. And then, of course, it's, WCW Nitro 2000, the very first episode. Their January, I don't know, it's like 2nd or 3rd. It's along those lines. And that'll start us off. So, I got a drop I'm going to play, and that will begin kind of, I think it'll be an ongoing golf section, whether it's LPGA and my own personal golf update. And that'll get us started into what's going on there. I really think if you're interested in kind of in the Joshi section, you might find a weird interest in what's going on in this weird sport I've picked up and real life women's sports. I mean, the Women's World Cup is coming, and it's just kind of a different side of things, I think. We'll see how it does in the listening when I get the data in. But here's a drop.
Venus light 鮮やかな希望は空を切って右手に野望掲げる笑顔青春ストーリーは今始まったばかり
All right, yeah. If you're curious of where that drop even came from, there's an anime called Birdie Wing, which is you can get it on Crunchyroll, but it's a golf anime about women, well, golfing. So it kind of speaks for itself there. Okay, so in case you're wondering, and in case you want a little bit more in depth, I have picked up the game of golf kind of officially. I'm a beginner, so I picked this. I've been watching it all kind of started just before COVID. I'd lost my job in Canada, moved to Rhode Island, met some friends bowling, and a lot of people golf. A lot of people I work with golf with the job I got. And throughout my childhood, along with college when I left Germany and went to Michigan Tech, golf has been this kind of strange part of my life where my dad played it, my grandfather played it. I'd always go out with them, kind of knock some balls around. We lived near a country club, which we swam at a lot. It was actually pretty cheap to join. And there's always this like bunkers and chipping green to putt around. So I spent a lot of my childhood at this like the Willow Fork golf club in Houston, and like always found an enjoyment in the sport. But you know, always into more things like bowling, basketball, baseball, and golf is expensive. You know, you got to have your own clubs. I mean, I had my own like cheap little Spalding set. Ended up finding a cheap Titleist driver once upon a time, and you know, I'd always just kind of knock the ball around, and it was always kind of it always functioned as more of a social function for myself, even as a kid, spending time with my parents, and then my grandfather always walked the course. So I only saw my grandfather very few times in life. He lived in Chicago, very far away, but we'd go and play around together. Can't say I was any good. But, you know, I did a camp as a kid and learned the very basics of basics. And when I got to college, the golf course was free if you were a student. So I'd go there during the summer because amazingly, there wasn't a whole lot to do in Upper Michigan. If I didn't want to go camping, I was in class up there, you know, a number of days a week, including weekends with my geology program I was in. So it already involved a lot of outdoors to begin with. So didn't really find myself wanting to go fishing, as I also did a lot as a kid. So golf has always been kind of a weird part of my life. And when I moved to Rhode Island, a number of years ago, I wanted to, with the social outings that it was, and something just kind of clicked where I wanted to pick the game up. And not so much in a way where I wanted to pick the game up just as a social outing. I finally want to. It has a lot to do with I can't play the competitive baseball anymore. I get injured. My ankles aren't what they used to be. Lots of injuries through basketball. Can't play basketball competitively anymore, even from I would say a social club value, because I'm way too competitive for that. I played in leagues in Toronto, both baseball, softball, and basketball, and you know I got injured. Even just kind of falling and bracing myself, I threw my shoulder out one year. I didn't want to go through that, and I can't go through that, to be honest. So, you know, started taking up bowling again, more full time. COVID happened. Obviously, I couldn't do that anymore. But just before COVID, I did buy my own set of clubs. You know, adult. I still had my more or less childhood set that I played even with through college. It was a mishmash of things I picked up at secondhand stores. But the point is, bought my own set, and then COVID happened, and no way I was going to go out there and There was just too much nonsense involved with having to just go out there and play. They had, rubber things on the holes, and it just wasn't the same. So I figured, okay, once COVID's passed and I'm in a better place financially, and as everyone knows, I bought a house last October in 2022, and now that everything's kind of situated, I can invest both money and time into the sport, and it has done everything I've wanted it to. It's actually been very most of the time it's been very nice to relieve stress. I joined a club that was very affordable, less than $500 a year, for those wondering, and I can go out there and play for $5-10 a round. It's got its own putting green, and a lot of people I work with are actually part of this club, and one of my best friends is very good at golf. I bowl with him, I work with him, and it's become something for me to get out of the house, meet new people, socialize. It's been very good mentally for me. Now, as you may have heard, I'm very hyper-competitive, so I want to be good at this. I want to try to be good at this. And I recognize that I'm a beginner by all accounts, okay? So what's dangerous is I still know the basics from back then, and I kind of have this expectation of myself to a degree, and I set goals. So I started officially in April, and even before this year, I was watching... with Peacock, you can watch all the LPGA and a lot of PGA events, and there's something about watching the women's golf that is very simplistic, fascinating, and more competitive to me in the sense of watching than the men. And it's all available on this app I already pay for to watch, these WCW reviews and various other shows on there like Yellowstone and what have you. So I found myself very immersed in golf even before April is when I officially picked it up and started playing. That's when the weather was nice and I could take it up. So my process was kind of learning the basics from the mental side and watching these women play. And I'll get into kind of just an LPGA review after I give my own personal golf update. And again, if this doesn't interest you and you've made it this far, look in the description. You can skip straight to the Joshi Wrestling. So I picked it up in April. I have my own clubs, and my friend knows how to make clubs at a very affordable price. So I upgraded an entire set and got a 3-wood and various other clubs through secondhand stores again, but things that were very much advisable to get. So got a hybrid, which I never had before, hybrid club. Very much better than any sort of 3 and 4 iron I was already hitting, because things are difficult. Golf is a very difficult game to pick up. And I got a putter upgrade, bought a Kirkland blade putter, and then I accumulated for fun a bunch of other putters. That'll be a short story in a second here. So for the first month, I went out a first couple times, just knocked the ball around, and took some advice from my best friend on the course there. And that's what the first couple weeks were. And then for that first month, I realized, okay, I need to work on the very basics first and foremost. And number one was grip. And for the entire month of April, all I did was work on my grip and knock the ball around. Grip, grip, grip. Never kept score, never do any of that. And I was having a good time. It was also frustrating because didn't really work on swing really at all. Just kind of, again, was learning the basics, reading up on everything. I mean, and when I talk about reading, from January until now in July, I've been reading up on club technology advancements, club technology in general of what's best for a beginner, what's best for a mid-handicap, which is, we'll call mid-handicap kind of average player out there who scores between 85 to 100, I would say, or even 90 to 100. Maybe that's even being too generous with it. But, and then all the way to things like golf balls. And and what's funny is where I work now, we're actually doing parts for Acushnet, for Titleist. So I'm even learning about the engineering aspects through the golf ball mold making process and how the difference between 1, 2, 3, 4-piece golf balls and what it takes to make those. So it also ties into like relevancy where I work, which is kind of fun. Yeah, and so learning a lot about clubs, and over the course of the last April, May, June, July, so I'm about 3.5 months in to learning this game and learning it. I've definitely learned a lot from the history aspect, which fascinates me, and the technology aspect of what would make this game easier for me and best to learn. And I learned very quickly that I took a driver just completely out of my bag. I can't hit it. I don't know how to hit it properly. If I can't hit it more than a 5-wood or hybrid, then what's the point of having it for distance when it doesn't make that up yet? And I slice everything into the woods, which is, I'm a right-handed, so I open the club face too much, and it goes right into the woods, which I've jokingly now called woods in regulation when I play. Just making it fun for statistics, and I got an app where I track my scores, track various statistics of greens in regulation, if that ever happens, pars, bogeys, putts per hole, putts in general per round, etc., etc. So, once I got grip done, then it was focused on just simply getting the ball to go straight. I would have the most basic of swing, little movement in my body, little movement even in my arms. It's essentially a half swing to at most 3/4 of a swing, so I could place the ball straight. And every once in a while, I'd probably mess up and use a little bit of the body action, and hey, it's looks, that one went 200 yards for once. That was weird. Or I'd get a gust of wind behind me and it was downhill. It's like, oh shit, I just had that ball go 240. Which, by the way, is my farthest drive on record with a 3-wood, because again, I don't have a driver in my bag. So over the course of the first 2 months, it was developing my bag and figuring out what I need and save up to buy in order to make this game easier. And at this point in July, the first 2 months was accumulating those clubs that I need, and I haven't spent more than, I would say, $200 on clubs to date, because I already had bought a beginner set back in just before COVID, and I've upgraded that since, but for the first 2.5 to 3 months, I still had that iron set, and then just replaced other things with upgraded clubs. I went on eBay, bought a Mizuno wedge set for $30 in total, $10 a club, 3-1, a 52, a 56, and a 60. Rarely hit them, to be honest, because until I hit them every once in a while, depending on if I'm in a heavy rough or bunker situation. It's like I got to salvage something here, and even a bad hit will do me good. But I generally chip with an 8-iron, 9-iron, or pitching wedge, depending on where I'm at, how far it is, or if I have some sort of hill in front of me. I used a 7-iron for a while to do a little bump and run action, but it doesn't have the loft action to have the confidence in order for it to run and stop in time. So I switched to an 8-iron about a month ago, and that has done me wonders. So the bag that I've built to this point is a 3-wood, a 5-wood, a 7-wood, a 9-wood, believe it or not, instead of a 5-iron, and a 4 hybrid. Okay? And then from there, I have done a mixed iron set of my 6 and 7-iron are what you call super game improvement clubs, because they're harder irons to hit. And then my 8, 9, and pitching wedge, which I have just described as something I go to when I'm doing more short game action, is a game improvement iron, and they're all from Maltby, because I've learned how to make my own clubs. So grips, the shafts, everything, and everything's a steel shaft except the woods. And the reason why I went to woods is to make up a lot of that distance that I just don't have. and they are easier to hit, and they function kind of like hybrids in of themselves. It just works best for me, and it's the easiest thing. Now, one of my first goals was play a round of 9 and get under 50. And I succeeded in that in about the first month once I got my grip down and just playing it safe. And then it was 3 rounds of 9 in a row. So 27 holes in total, each round under 9, under 50 in a row I had to do. And I did that I succeeded in that about 2.5 weeks ago. And I gifted myself a good round at a nice course of 18. And that was a nice thing to do. And that was after getting grip and just getting the ball straight, was the 2 goals. Now, the next goal is to start getting the ball over 200 yards and having a lot more disparity in my clubs between the 120 and 200 range. I'm 35 years old. I admittedly swing very slow. I need to develop the muscles, so there's some workout regimes going through with, push-ups, learning how to swing properly and getting some strength. But the issues I have been told and developed is I have 0 follow-through in my club speed. So it's called quitting on the ball, and I quit on everything, which doesn't help when you already develop a slice. So seemingly every single ball I hit, if I do hit it, generally fades to the right no matter what, and that's a problem. Because even if I'm lining up left, I will still open the club face and quit, which will immediately make the ball go right no matter what. And it's very frustrating. So then what has happened is anytime I unconsciously swing too fast or want to add quote unquote power, I top the ball. I come up with everything and it's no good. It's extremely infuriating. And then when that happens, when the frustration kicks in, then I just chunk a ball into the dirt over and over again, and nothing really goes over 100 yards. And that's led me to where I'm at now, where I've had my first professional lesson, and I don't think I really learned anything, unfortunately. He told me I'm off balance half the time, or I'm on my heels, but, okay, so I'm on balance, and I'm bringing the club back straight, but I'm still kind of in that same issue area where, okay, if I ever connect with the ball properly, at best the ball goes 150 yards, and that doesn't improve that doesn't improve the game where I need it to. So yesterday, after my lessons and had my round of at 9, I got extremely aggravated, and I just kind of walked away thinking I need to reevaluate where I am, who I am, and where I expect myself to be. I am in a league on Wednesday nights to get I need that competitive sense in order to feel like I need to get better and want to get better. Maybe that's contributing to my mental frustration, because a lot of the aspects about golf I love is this mental part of the game, which is very much reminiscent to bowling. And I've taken the entire summer off from bowling. I was going 4 or 5 times a week over the last year to compete competitively again. I made a lot of money back, but I burned myself out, between work and, some personal mental aspects that, I struggle through every now and again with, I live alone, guys. I live alone in a state, not a lot of family around me, 0, in fact. It does get lonely, and I do find myself suffering from those things every now and again. So there's some personal behind the curtains there. Golf has really helped in that regards. Different environments, different people, rather than just being at a bowling alley 5 times a week. So I got to reevaluate myself. I have had a lot of fun picking up this hobby. I've built a goofy little indoor putting green in my living room, which I could do since I do live alone. I've accumulated some cheap old school putters. which has been fun to do. My cat plays on the putting green constantly with his toys, so that's funny. Yeah. So I gotta take some days off here, reevaluate just what the game should be and what my own expectations are. I know I'm expecting too much out of myself, but when you think you've gotten to a point and you start to regress, that does get overly frustrating. Okay. So when it comes to the LPGA, this has been fun because it's really given me kind of a trip down memory road when I would watch the various, every once in a while, PGA and LPG events as a kid with my dad. Watch a lot of Michelle Wee and Annika Sorenstam, one of the winningest women's golfers of all time. And with the Peacock app, holy shit, they got some documentaries on there, which is like, This Is My Open. Then that caused me to go down a road of watching, like, kind of catching up on the last 10 years of the LPGA, where Paula Kramer won in about, 2014 or something? No, I think it was 2010, actually. When Michelle Wee finally won her first and only major in 2014, which was very emotional. She was the one that qualified for an LPGA tournament at like 12, and then the media just tore her a new one every time she wouldn't win something. And the media wanted her to be the next Tiger Woods, and it's gotten myself to even look at her career a lot differently now than I did back then, because a lot of people will look at kind of just overall win record and judge someone completely, and she's not that kind of person. And where this all came together is the U.S. Open this year for the women played Pebble Beach for the first time, and it's one of the most fun tournaments I've ever seen in sports in ages. Mostly because now this is a sport I'm getting into, kind of hardcore for the first time in a long time. Baseball doesn't do it much for me anymore because the Rockies they've really beaten the fandom out of me. And the Blue Jays, I love them. I'll watch a Blue Jays game. I do like them, but I'm watching a lot of old stuff with Sorenstam, with Inkster. A lot of things from like the 90s with Sorenstam. I really enjoy Michelle Wee's career, and really gets you to look at the evolution of women's golf and women's sports over the last 10 to 15 years, where the who was it? It was Sae Kim breaking out for Korean golf for the first time in the mid 2000s, created a whole generation and popularity in an entire country, which is a big rabbit hole to go down. And overall, I mean, if we just cut to Lydia Ko in the mid 2010s, being super fascinating, qualifying when she was in like 16 years old, and basically becoming the person that Michelle Wee wasn't. And because of the media debacle with Michelle Wee, you find that the coverage of these young golfers has backtracked a lot over the last 10 years. And the latest sensation is Rose Zhang, went to Stanford, won just about everything you can imagine, and then locked up onto the LPGA this year and won her very first tournament, which, it hasn't been done in, since Tiger, basically. And she's getting a lot of media attention, and she's so humble. So maybe it's not they're not like, ironically, they're not creating enough of a superstar out of Rose Zhang. And if we kind of want to recap what's happened this year, Jin Young Ko is someone I've really enjoyed watching, along with Lydia Ko. I make fun of watching Lexi Thompson a lot because she's been around forever, and she hits a 2-iron, which just angers me and infuriates me. How does someone hit that? And Minjee Lee. So these are my people I've been watching a lot. And Brooke Henderson goes without saying, Canadian. I think she's the most winningest Canadian golf athlete ever or something. These are the people I've been watching the most. They're on TV a lot. Rose Zhang has broken out recently, so she's on there a lot. So Lilia Vu won the Chevron. That's the first major of the year. And then the women's PGA happened. Yinru Ying from China won that. And then Jin Young Ko won the Founders, which is, I can't say it's like the FedEx Cup for women, but it's before the Open this year. It's usually the biggest prize in women's golf, and she won it back to back. Other notable golfers is like Nelly Korda, whom I haven't seen a whole lot of her, even though she's one of the more famous ones. And then that brings me to the most recent major, which was the Open at Pebble Beach. Highly recommend watching the whole documentary on Road to Pebble on Peacock, where it covers Rose Zhang and Michelle Wee and Annika Sorenstam, and just kind of the expectation and excitement and the historical importance to what this tournament means overall. And that'll take you down a rabbit hole if you get into that. And the major at Pebble was very interesting from the competitive aspect. You had Hatauka from Japan and Bailey Tardy going nuts on back-to-back days, but each and every day there was someone very important that was lurking from behind, and that was Allison Corpuz out of Hawaii. And she's been slowly gaining traction since she turned pro about middle last year. And each and every tournament, she seems to get closer and closer and closer with top 20 and then top 15 and then top 10 finishes. And then seemingly at Pebble, she was -3 day one, -2 day two, -4 day three. And then when it finally got to that final day, she just pulled ahead of everybody. And Corpuz's putting is what did it, and just kind of getting the ball where it needed to be on the green. And learning the game of golf is super interesting, much in the same sense of me learning the lanes in bowling each and every time out. While it differs environmentally, I like to think that the interpretation of the game is very similar. While golf is learning the game from lies and where you got to play it next per hole, bowling is anticipating the breakdown each and every ball and looking at how your opponents could impact yourself as well. While your opponent kind of in golf just is their own world, you just got to play your own game. Anyways, so that's kind of where we're at in the LPGA for this year. There's definitely some injuries and some struggles that some of your top players are going through, but the main players right now are Corpuz, Minji Lee, and Rose Zhang currently right now. And then there's some people going up and down every year over the course of tournaments, and it's very fun to follow. So there's your 34 minutes golf introduction for this episode. And with that, I will now... I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll have much shorter updates probably to begin each and every week. I do want to mention that I did a couple scrambles and won money in scrambles for golf tournaments, and then I actually won... I actually golfed a 44 one week during the league, and that won me 2 categories. So I ended up winning like $100, which essentially paid for the entire second session of the league now. So that's already paid for. I won the net, and it's called a B. It's separated into 2 groups: A, which is scratch, and B, which is handicap. And I won the handicap group that week. So despite my kind of mental struggles and frustrations, there is certainly an advantage I'm finding to a lot of things. So I guess I'll take that and go into TJPW. Here we go. Okay, everybody, we're going to, I guess, do some Joshi previews first. I'll just, even though you heard TJPW, Basically, what you can look forward to on the next episode is going to be the Stardom Korakuen, the start of the 5-star Grand Prix. And if you want a full breakdown, there's their Stardom Quest I'd recommend over their huge preview. Scott E. wrote a decent little article at Voices of Wrestling over it all. My short takes and version would be, look, the tournament's stacked. It has the best of the best this year. I don't feel like anyone really got snubbed out of the tournament. There's no Risa Serra or Saki freelancer booking you have to worry about. No, who was in it last year? It was no, it was 2 years ago. It was Takumi Iroha, and I thought her booking was obnoxious to work around. But this year, you really have Sauriano, who seems to be kind of more full-time-ish in this iteration. No Kairi, no Nanai Takahashi, no Yu, none of those kinds of people. So the Grand Prix looks pretty fair. It's 2 blocks of 10 each. The running pick right now is Utami Hayashida. That's pretty fair, going along with her story of going to America and then showing up on AEW and doing all that. Showed up on Ring of Honor in a dark match. Hardly means anything, but I'm still going with my dark horse pick of Mayu Iwatani. Plays right into the Tam storyline and what they're going on there, and I think Tam should beat her. I really don't discount Sai Kamatani possibly winning this thing. And if we want to get super bold, Suzu Suzuki, assuming she has signed with the company, but I really get the feeling that she's just going to be kind of one of those people that's going to be in it until the last day, which wouldn't shock me. And she's playing more of a spoiler role this year. Kind of like how Mayu has kind of been booked in the 5-star the last few years. So that's the preview there. There's a Sendai show at Korakuen Hall with a Venny Millie McKenzie main event, which is kind of weird, but the Chihiro Hashimoto Natsupoi match will probably be the big takeaway there. There's a Sari tag. Basically your general indie show that Sendai books week in and week out. This one just happens to be at Korakuen Hall. Probably won't be covering any Oz Academy until their quote-unquote big show in August, and Marvelous with the Mio Momino Ozaki title match, which sure screams to me that Ozaki's winning that thing. And then TJPW's Princess Cup. Their first 2 shows, I think, are at KFC Hall. Kind of a baffling choice there. Same weekend as the G1 is opening up, among other things. And I guess I'll probably cover that Kento Miyahara Nakajima match. That looks pretty sick. As for the other companies, Ice Ribbon's not doing anything. They have really just super downgraded this year. Yeah, they have some rookies coming out, but between their schedule and the hype behind it, Ice Ribbon's pretty much dead at this point. I don't see them coming back anytime soon to any sort of relevance. Tsukasa Fujimoto is coming back for a one-night show type thing that might pop a little number just to, I don't know, maybe they break 200. Who knows? And then if you want to listen to Pure J Podcast, Red Leaf Retrocast, Patreon, monthly, JPQ and I, everything that's been going on in the Pure J month in and month out as things continue on there. As they gear up for their next Korakuen, which is in August, which has got the main event of Nakamori against All Cap Saki of Colors. Okay, so TJPW. Summer Sun Princess, Oda City, 1,222 people in the arena. Down from their March show, up from their January 4th show, but only 100 people. So take that for what it's worth. If we go back to Summer Sun of 2022, in July they got 1130. So kind of a plus minus, kind of a null situation there. I chalk, and this is where it's interesting. I think technically this is the largest Oda crowd they've ever done, but with restrictions listed, I have to imagine below 1,500 is a failure in TJPW's case. It kind of goes into more of, usually if it's a bigger building, more people would show up. Well, didn't really get that big a boost compared to even the holiday Korakuen show that they've been getting. And if I go back to, 2019 pre-pandemic, they were sticking in almost 1,400 people into that Korakuen in January. And in May, which I'm kind of regarding as that in-between Grand Prix Summer Sun Show, they got 1,100 people. So them putting on what they think is a huge card with the big main event of Maki Ito Mizuki, to get 1,200 in there, I consider this a more closer to the failure side. I have ran the data, and if you look up their kind of year-over-year data, house show business is certainly up to a degree, but it coincides with COVID being lifted, like directly. Now they've been pulling 300 consistently for low-end house shows like Osaka, I guess, and then 600 type Korakuens, which they've kind of been in a deadlock outside of the 774 show. If we go back to last year, they were kind of in a deadlock of 500, 600 on a good month. So in that sense, they're kind of breaking even, but the overall attendance increase can be directly correlated to restrictions being lifted. So not good. I don't think this is a huge positive for TJPW. I think this 1222 number is kind of their own doing, with Miyu Yamashita, Maki Ito being out of this promotion for an entire month leading up to it, multiple months in some cases. Yuka Sakazaki's match being canceled due to her quote-unquote injury. I don't doubt that she's injured, but if we look up and down this card, it was filled with outsiders, with the exception of Miyu Yamashita, outsiders being better than their roster and winning the matches over them. This has been a running theme for TJPW the last couple years. Whether it's Ryo Mizunami coming in for her squash of the month, essentially, or Saki-sama coming in and doing her shtick and pinning someone and leaving. There's Nyla Rose coming in and putting the hurting on somebody. It's really putting over that your roster is less than who you bring in. And I've discussed this many times over the damage this does long term, at least in terms of it doesn't help for growth. It never has, it never will. All it does is, at best, it does what we see now, where these people come in to kind of hold the status quo and your attendance stays steady for a period of time. And unless they pivot and go in a different direction, this will have diminishing returns very quickly when you want to pull the trigger on, let's say, a Miyu Watanabe into a main event role. And let me tell you, if this woman doesn't win the Princess Cup this year, which I don't think she will, everything points to Miyu Yamashita with her story of she's never really won a tournament before this year, and she won the tag, so what's next on her agenda before she maybe perhaps leaves full-time, much like Yuka Sakazaki is at the end of the year. I think, Maki Ito is essentially a GCW wrestler at this point. I'm not as positive on TJPW's future. Now, from a roster standpoint, they're fine, right? They got a full roster. They can keep putting on their cute little house shows. But if they want to be in big boy, let's compute territory, I see them falling down rather than like an Oz Academy gaining traction and going up. Because let me tell you, Oz Academy, they're not pulling that different numbers than TJPW. The sole difference is TJPW has run 3 big shows this year, and Oz Academy has run 1 Korakuen of note. Okay? So if you look at strictly the house show business, even from Oz Academy's produce show-like schedule, Oz Academy is right there with TJPW. That's something. If we're looking at Shinjuku Face versus TJPW outside Korakuen, now, of course, I don't buy Oz Academy's attendance half the time, but from what they tell me, they are not far off from TJPW numbers. So don't sleep on Oz Academy being able to pull in their super niche audience and keep gaining traction over the year. They're the only one that's growing, quote unquote, year over year. I put out a tweet over Ice Ribbon's loss percentage and Oz Academy's growth percentage, and that'll kind of tell you what we're looking at. So, TJPW, I can't say this Summer Sun Princess was really all that great. The Daisy Monkey, Jiri Nagano, Moka Minamoto opening tag was everything we've seen from them before. Then we had a bad 8-man tag, a bad tag match involving Nao Calcutta and Yuki Kamifuku in 10 minutes. It was really all about Veni and Ryu Mizunami doing their thing until it was time to fuck off. The Vert Vixen Hikari Noah 9-minute match was really nothing. Can't even go 1 out of 3 on that. It was fine, but very low level. Hikari Noah just doesn't have it. She's got a good look. She's got a good personality. Maybe a little charisma going on there. But in the ring, when those bells happen, she simply doesn't have it, guys. And if she's going to be pushed to a main event level, I mean, maybe perhaps in the future they won't have a choice. But she's certainly not my first choice to get into that main event and be able to do anything. I mean, that's why she's, fourth from the bottom on this 12-match card here, or 8-match card, however many it is. And she's not occupying semi-main events. Obviously has a lot to do with Tetsuya Koda's booking, but anyways. Hyper Masao and Nakajima do a 3-way tag in very TJPW fashion with not a whole lot of comedy, but enough where Aja Kong and Raku did their thing. Max the Impaler and Palm did their goofy little story. Not for me. Nice little mid-card match, but this is your third biggest show of the year, and they're pulling out the most basic of matches with a little comedy. That just isn't good enough to me for positive reviews. Nyla Rose defeats Miyu Watanabe in 8 minutes. This really came across as a Ring of Honor match if Miyu Watanabe was showing up. They tried to build the whole match up to this big swing, and Miyu couldn't do it. So the whole purposeful spot of popping the crowd just failed, and Nyla Rose just pins her. Just not a whole lot of here. No big near falls, and that was a big story of the show. Is there was just nothing really remotely to these matches substance-wise. Miyu Yamashita and Sawyer Wreck had an abysmal 12-minute match, one of the longer matches on the show. Well, I guess the back 4 all were 12-minute plus, but Sawyer Wreck stinks. She can't sell, and if the gimmick is she's going to be more monster, she just doesn't have it. She just awkwardly sauntered around the ring. Really reminded me of 1993 Warlord, for those that like that reference. But, Miyu Yamashita got her big kickoff in the end, and, this was easily the worst match on the show. This was abysmal. And Miyu Yamashita being the only one to really break out the win here against an outsider. Neo Bishikigun defeats Wakana Uehara and Yuki Arai with Saki-sama pinning Uehara in front of Arai. Kind of cold as ice moment there, but I don't understand this. This woman's retiring at the end of the year, and she's pinning people in front of their face like a heel. And yes, I get that's the character, but do we really believe that Saki-sama and Yuki Arai are going to have a singles match at Wrestle Princess 4, and Yuki Arai is going to pin this woman clean as a sheet? I don't know if that's going to be the case, guys. I am not very confident in that happening. What would have been better is Yuki Arai pins May St. Michelle in front of Saki-sama. And they build up to that. Let's build some courage and singles victory, and that would even give Uehara a big shining to be on the winning side of the team. So a lot of just this roster gets beaten down. I mean, might as well have Ryu Mizunami beat Yuki in the opener, but yeah, you had Now kind of in there for a bad finish. But so, like I said in kind of previewing this show prior, Rika Tatsumi and Aino was kind of the most anticipated match on the show, and Yuki Aino stepped up. She's been stepping up the last couple months. really having a lot of energy to her matches, and I maintain Riga Tatsumi is probably the most consistent worker in this promotion, next to Mizuki. And Tatsumi and Aino went out there and had a nice little 2 out of 3 recommendation match in 15 minutes. I don't think it's like a 4-star level or anything, but if I'm going to put it at the 3.5-star level and, recommend that you wouldn't waste your time doing it, I rather enjoyed this. And my dark horse pick for the Princess Cup is actually Rika Tatsumi. I think she could pull something off here, and to do something different for Wrestle Princess would be title versus title. This International Princess title has a weird kind of cloud over it, where as soon as you lose it, you kind of go off to do nothing. That's where we're at. So then we got to our main event. Kind of played out exactly how I expected. Supposedly Maki Ito and Yamashita were getting boos on a house show prior to this because they just haven't been around. And, this match was 24 and a half minutes. And, I watched this match compared to some other Joshi matches out there, and the level wasn't there. The level wasn't brought. Maki Ito was very much in, I can't call it GCW mode because that's not right. It was more like she wanted to play a character that just hadn't been built up on the tour because she hasn't been there. And the first half of this match was extremely slow, and it looked like they ran out of ideas very quickly as soon as they went to the outside. Ito's doing DDTs on the floor, then the ring apron, and then she's doing them off the top rope as well. And those were your 3 big spots. Mizuki did some cross bodies off the top. And the near falls just didn't exist. The half crab near fall that Ito was supposed to do to tap her out wasn't felt. The crowd was kind of dead the whole time. I just don't agree with a lot of people's takes that this was some 4.5-star match, even in a Joshi kind of storytelling aspect or near fall aspect or engagement aspect. I thought this lacked just it just didn't have any energy to it. And I know people are going to point to, well, in the post-match, it was very emotional, where Ito said, I acknowledge you and the Ito Respect Army, etc. I was like, well, of course she's going to say that. It's the only aspect of the story they could point to because there was nothing built up on the tour. They tried to tie things together in a post-match interview, and by then it's too late. Mizuki just wins this with her cutie special, just kind of bang, and it's 1, 2, 3. We're done. I went 2 out of 3. I thought it was fine, but I also didn't think it was any better than Rika Tatsumi Yuki Aino. 2 out of 3. 3.5 stars. Around there. And I think a lot of that has to do with the build and the energy to the match and kind of the level of it. I expected a lot more here. So TJPW is doing the cup. Like I said, I think Tatsumi's a dark horse. I think Miyu Yamashita is easily the running favorite, and if we're going to pick anyone else, that right side of the bracket is incredibly weak. Miyu Watanabe should be a lock to come out of that, and if they want to continue telling stories, because if she's going to be built up in any way, she's done a lot of losing over the course of many months, and this Nyla Rose one was very definitive. She could win, but how impactful is it going to be? I guess it remains to be seen. We'll have to see that play out in real time. A real changer would be she beats Nyla Rose on the show and goes in the cup with a lot of momentum, and then we get behind her. Anyways, let's talk about some fucking Stardom. An awesome show. Let's go. Okay, so that was about 20 minutes on TJPW and a little preview of the Joshi scene. Time for Stardom, MidSummer Champions. It says Kings of MidSummer. Why wouldn't it say Queens of MidSummer? Anyways. 1307 at the Yokohama Budokan. If we look to past Stardom pay-per-views, the Yokohama MidSummer, well, actually it was in Nagoya last year. No, they ran 2 MidSummer ones. They ran MidSummer at Tachikawa Stage Garden for 1,200 and Nagoya, which was at 1,064. So year over year, we're, depending on how you look at it, we're plus 100, plus 300. And then, let's see, if we go back to 2021, it was 1135. So post-COVID, you could kind of say this was a restriction lifting bump, much like my same critique with TJPW. I did point out that this promotion's I did the whole attendance breakdown last year, year over year in the last episode. So in terms of Yokohama Budokan 1300, I'm just gonna say this like TJPW. I think they kind of did this to themselves. I keep saying, let's at least get all these shows over 1,500. What is it going to take to go over 2,000? And, when you're booking Natsupoi against Sariano in a weird build, I kind of liked it, but I also kind of didn't. To be a main event on this show, with a gimmick, they're really leaning heavy to the gimmicks lately. I guess that's what those Stardom and Showcase matches was practice to how to get gimmick matches across. And I can't say the cage matches have missed by a long shot. I mean, a lot of people love those cage matches. I have liked them year over year at this point. But things like these strap matches, they don't work as it's like they want to recreate the Bull Nakano Akira or Shinobu Kandori chain match from 30 years ago. And you're not going to do that unless you bleed and really have a big sense of physicality and really looking like you're putting a beating on each other. And I just don't think the fandom is quite used to that or quite wants that yet, right? Or doesn't know they even want that. A big part of this build should have been building up bigger tag matches and bigger singles matches. I think the Tam Nakano Mirai setup was done well. I do. I think it came together well enough. Mirai showed a lot of fire in this build-up. And when it came to the final promos and build, I think they did nail that. But for that not to be the main event, I think was a big miscue, and to not make that clear that should have been the main event. I think that's what hurt the show. And if I run down looking at this card, a high-speed title match of Saki Kashima Death, third from the top, that doesn't do anything. Are you kidding me? That's downright poor. That's poor setup and poor match structure. To put that above the tag title match, I think is a gross misstep. And I think the Mina Shirakawa Shuri impact should have been built more as well. Now I'm going to play a drop here. It's going to be a 1-part heavy critique and 2-part me poking fun at this other Joshi podcast. I put this out on Twitter, so it's not like I'm hiding it from anyone here. But this is a critique of Stardom, which I really don't agree with, and it's factually incorrect. So here we go.
Doing constant pay-per-views that are like $45 for just doing constant pay-per-views that are like $45 for just a house show tier card. I'm sick of them having a shitty streaming service that I pay every month for and usually don't end up using because nothing I actually want to see is uploaded there until it's long out of date. I'm sick of just how they run the company. It's nothing to do with the wrestlers. It's purely, I don't like the company itself. I don't. Hatman, I'm sorry. You got to do better. You got to do better. And I know you're doing great. You're bringing in fans, but buddy, those simps are going to dry up eventually. You can't keep bleeding them for all the money they're worth because they're going to run it. Doing constant pay.
Okay, so I'm calling them out. This is a prominent network Joshi Wrestling podcast voting. This is one of their hosts voting Stardom worst promotion of the year. We're not even talking like this is just puro, but we're not. I don't know how you can. I don't know how you can call yourself a fan of Joshi Wrestling when a company that is being run like a business and putting on the best product in Joshi since AJW. I've pointed out how many statistics and facts and output that what he just said is factually wrong. And when he talks about the service, I've spoken about, and Stardom Quest has also been very critical over the service being kind of unacceptable in 2023. But here's the real aspect to it. The WWE Network and that business model does not work, and it's proven not to work. So if we pay our $6 to $10 a month to eventually get every house show and every pay-per-view on there for that price, no matter when it comes out, I think is still extremely valuable to the fandom. For keeping up with it week to week, well, if you're a podcaster like myself, you adjust to when they put out their product. I mean, let me give this as an example. No one critiques Sendai on these podcasts for being 6 to 8 months behind their shows, but that doesn't stop you from covering them when they come out. You can absolutely do that. So I want to hear the equal critique in that regard. But Sendai also runs a lot less shows. They have a lot less budget. So from a budgetary standpoint, I understand that. But look, I'm a fan who hasn't bought almost a single Stardom pay-per-view, and I wait till the service is out. And if that takes 2 weeks, so be it. You know, yes, I would like house shows to be up within 3 days to a week. I would like there to be little more care to it. Yes, Russell's Universe is a good source for that, but let's not pretend that worked at first either. And let's not pretend Wrestle Universe is geared towards TJPW anyways. No one reviews their house shows week to week. Nobody does that. So anyways, when it comes to the pay-per-view side, I mishmashed a Wrestling Observer Radio episode from July 12th to basically dunk on and prove why everything he said was also factually incorrect. So I'm going to play a couple drops here. You might hear some audio double down on each other, but here it is.
It could happen. I mean, they do need more pay-per-views, though. I mean, I think. I mean, as far as that, but you don't want to keep adding content and burn out your audience and make it difficult, especially when you're the number 2 group. I mean, Impact used to do 12 pay-per-views a year. I don't know if that was,
when WWE went to 12 pay-per-views a year, I mean, you had the big 4, and then they moved to 12, and then, the obvious concern is, well, these pay-per-views aren't going to be as special anymore. But, I mean, they made a lot of money running 12 pay-per-views a year when they started with those in-your-house shows. And then
the in-your-house shows were not a success. It was when they stopped the in-your-house shows.
When they raised the prices, when they made them raised the price and 12 pay-per-views.
Because what happened so people talk about, do lower price pay-per-views, which is a terrible idea because it's been tried and always fails, whether it's boxing or anything. The idea that we're going to do a cheaper price so that way more people will buy it because the price is cheaper, that doesn't work, because once you tell people it's cheaper, it's the one that they skip. So the in-your-house, when your product is really good, you can do anything when your product is good. And WCW did the same thing. They expanded to, they were the ones who first went to monthly when Vince said you could never do it. I mean, so the idea of, the expansion from 4 to 12, and UFC went from, 5 to 12, or slowly, and maybe they probably went from 5 to 8 to 12 to, numbers like that as well. And I think some years they had even more than 12. And, it was the same thing. The idea that, people they won't spend the money 12 times a year, but they'll spend it 4 times.
All right, so that's the end of part 1. Here's part 2.
UFC went from 5 to 12, or slowly, and maybe they probably went from 5 to 8 to 12 to numbers like that as well. And I think some years they had even more than 12. And it was the same thing. The idea that people they won't spend the money 12 times a year, but they'll spend it 4 times a year. I mean, in every case when there's been an expansion, that hasn't been the case. So
and it's a balancing act, because I mean, if you're doing, let's say you're doing 140 a show 5 times a year, and then, you know, because you're doing 12, people pick and choose a little bit more, and maybe you're down to 100,000, but you're doing 100,000 12 times, you're making significantly more money than you were doing 140,000 buys at for 5.
But that didn't happen with WCW, that didn't happen with WWF, and that didn't happen with UFC. In none of those cases did that happen.
Well, I mean, that's...
what you said makes sense, but in reality, that never happened with any of them. You know, what happened was they sold more and more and more, but that's also because in all cases, the promotion became hard.
Say worst case scenario that you would see people pick and choose and drop, but still you would still come out ahead, even if you did have a drop in viewership per pay-per-view, provided it's not, you know, a drop by, you know, you lose half the people that purchase, which seems impossible that would happen.
Well, the key is which is the same, because even if you had 5, this would be the same thing. The key is that you have to produce shows that people want to buy.
Yes.
I mean, if you and if you had 5, you have to do that too. I mean, that's the key to maintaining your pay-per-view business. And there was times, look, UFC went from
Okay. So, yeah, that was Observer Radio, Meltzer, and Alvarez essentially discussing pay-per-view business, and I related that directly to Stardom and what that quack of a Joshi podcaster said about how the simps are going to dry out, and it's utter nonsense. It's utter nonsense what is always uttered on that podcast, and I'm kind of sick of it. They base it off nothing and pure just dislike of the promotion that they seemingly cover every 2 weeks. It's garbage. It's a garbage cast I do not recommend, and you listeners of this one know better. And that's just it's just an example of kind of haters out there. And look, I watch TJPW, and I am very clear I do not agree with much of what that promotion does, but I also admit that it's probably the second best one by a large margin. It's definitely better than Oz Academy. I like how they do have a roster that's actually filled and paying people. I do like how many aspects of their business is not totally over their heads. I don't agree with maybe their scheduling and their booking practices, but even then, you know, a Maki Ito Mizuki match on paper is significantly more interesting than running back an Aja Kong match in 2023 for your title. I'm not sure who's going to do that. Maybe Oz Academy again, but you get the idea. Now, when it comes to these Stardom pay-per-views, yes, they are certainly running a lot. And contrary to belief, it isn't. Look, if it wasn't making them money at a margin that's worth it, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't run their 20 pay-per-views a year that they're doing, which perhaps is drying out certain people, but again, it's not really meant for even the domestic audience, because most of these things get shown on like Samurai TV and the like. It's for ease of access and for us to buy, and if you don't want to buy it, well, then they got that service, Stardom World, that, you know, bad or not, those do go up there eventually. And look, and if you don't like that, you don't want to wait, you don't want to pay, look, there's services like VK out there where people upload these things within like 6 hours of the event ending. There are plenty of ways to get around these things. It's 2023. The pay-per-view model is clearly working for Stardom. And an example of something that didn't work is the Stardom and Showcase. If those Stardom and Showcase shows were doing any sort of pay-per-view business or success even in the ticket sales for what it cost to put on, they would still be doing them right now, and we haven't heard of them doing another show in quite some time. Because you bet your ass if that made money, they would continue doing them. There's a reason why I came on here and blasted how dumb those shows were each and every week. Each and every time they did one. So, you know, Stardom is doing a couple less Korkins. They've done one more pay-per-view show than they have last year. And by all accounts, I think the shows have been good. I don't think they've been possibly as good as they were last year or even during COVID, because the output and high end, you know, every show had a red and white belt match, a tag match. Perhaps if we look behind the curtain, they think they can get away with these 1,200 to 1,800 numbers, and that's more viable to their booking schedule, and they're getting the same amount of buys for those shows than stacking up the cards. If business-wise that kind of checks out, and I'm really leaning towards that, the more I kind of look into these shows from a breakdown perspective, then I understand why they're booking these shows like that. But from my fandom perspective, I definitely preferred, a red and white belt match on every one of these pay-per-views to make it seem like they're buying them, because as Meltzer said, you have to put on a card and a hot show that people want to buy. So that's what leads me to believe that if people are still buying these shows from the international perspective, at let's say a show last year with a stacked card got 600 buys, or even 700, and a show with a less card and potentially the same interest in the grand scheme of things in a macro way, they get 490. I could totally see why they would want a Hatman or Bushi Road would go, okay, we don't really see the need to completely overly stack a card and have a blow-off match in that sense, or we can use that match for the next pay-per-view, as an example. So I really wanted to get that out there and make that clear that maybe that's why Stardom is doing the decisions that they are doing, and us as fans maybe can keep if we want to critique it from our own fandom perspective, that's totally fair. But if you want to critique it from a business perspective, get your facts straight, right? Okay. Like, I blasted the Cinderella tournament earlier this year as a complete failure, and that was with a lot of facts to back it up. Okay. So my main critique is why that Indian strap match was the main event and why it was pulled, and maybe the thinking behind that is the gimmicks could draw in a house a little bit more than just having the Wonder of Stardom title match at the top. And splitting up the red belt and white belt, I think, was the right decision on this show. Tam had her couple-month run with both, had one Natsupoi match, which I thought did well. And let me just blast through the rest of this card. So, pre-show match, Hina and Miyu Amasaki lose to Waka and Yuna Mizumori. Hanako Meisera and Suzu Suzuki defeated Aya Sakura and Hazuki and Ida. Not much to say there. Interesting that Hanako was paired up with the three, but could very well be to just throw her into the match, get her some time. Queen's Quest match, 8-man tag against the Stars team, and really an okay match. Nothing to write home about, but the big thing was Utami coming hot off the heels of that cage match and emotional with Sai Kamatani. Queen's Quest is fine, and yet Utami said, clearly now at this point, it's all storyline purposes where Stardom wanted to utilize an international booking sense to put over Utami trying to find herself and become a better leader and taking time away from Queen's Quest. So I'm not looking into her being signed up by NXT because Io Sky is searching for her in the Performance Center, or Utami doing a lame half-ass speed JCW match just like Miyu Yamashita did or Jungle Kiona did when she was on the indie scene in the United States. No one's talking about those things. No one's talking about Maki Ito facing Billy Starks. And I'm not talking about AEW poaching talent to have a nice little dark match on ROH Red and Black against Trish Adora, okay? Yes, I'm recording the Stardom section in post on day of release. So Utami is doing the storyline very well, giving her a lot of buzz, individual buzz heading into the 5-star. Because let's be honest, no eyeballs are being brought to Stardom because she's showing up on a JCW show in New Jersey. Or a Calgary Dark match, okay? DDM defeat Oedo Tai, nothing to say there. And then this is where the show gets into the crux of it. Nanai Takahashi defeats Starlight Kid, 14.5 minutes. Probably Nanai Takahashi's best match in like 3.5 years. Starlight Kid actually got the best out of her, and Nanai, after this match, was blown the fuck up. She was toasted. They did a little angle with Momoe Nakanishi. It's leading to a trios match for God knows what reason. I don't know what the purpose of this is. Supposedly these are all Starlight Kid's ideas. Wouldn't shock me, but let's get this kid's pencil out of the book, please, because Starlight Kid does not need to be losing matches like this. She's a bigger star than Nanai Takahashi at this point. She has more potential than Nanai Takahashi at this point. Nanai Takahashi at this point, to me, is mostly washed. She has no value to being beaten, as we've seen by the Waka match and the Waka draw. She has no... Her value in this promotion is what I was saying beforehand. She needs to be in tags and singles with rookies. That's where her value is. It is not putting over potentially Starlight Kid. Starlight Kid's already better than her and has bigger value than her. That being said, I went 2 out of 3 on this match. I vastly enjoyed it because Starlight Kid is a great wrestler, and she's surpassed many of these vets of the past at this point. Now, do I think this is the end of Nanai Takahashi since she's not in the 5-star? I don't. I think she's taking bookings while the 5-star is going on, and she will be back for Tag League, unfortunately. Good match, 2 out of 3. Club Venus defending the tag titles. Mina Shirakawa and Maria May doing the big dance, doing the entrance. I love this team so much. And here we go. Ami Sourei and Shuri. 14.5 minutes. Mina Shirakawa getting the big Mina Genosuke clutch. Genosuke clutch? Mina collection clutch over Shuri. Very unexpected. Huge win. I don't recall if they're in the same block again, but that would be a big anticipated rematch for the 5-star, assuming they are in the same block. And it puts over Mina very strong, coming off her white belt loss to Tam Nakano, and they've really, really capitalized on Mina Shirakawa well in 2023. She, to me, is a top 3 to 5 Joshi Wrestler of the Year at this point, Women's Wrestler of the Year at this point. Her run to the white belt, winning the white belt, losing the white belt was emotional, winning the tag titles, and now this defense. I think Mina Shirakawa has been booked as well as anyone can be. This is great. I love this team that they've made with Club Venus, and what a booking decision is to get this win over Shuri. And it's not even a fluke roll up. She got her in her finishing move. And Mina Shirakawa has a number of them. And that's what I love about Stardom is realistically, most of these wrestlers can win with, 3 different moves. And I do enjoy that. Do I think in a one-on-one affair, Mina could beat Shuri? Well, it's got me thinking. That's for sure. And that's good booking to me. And this match was good. I went 2 out of 3 on this one too. Ami Sourei, despite her limitations, she keeps being put in... nice little upper card matches like this, which is getting her a lot of experience and confidence. And she's not being put in heavy main events. I think they backed off on that once the Sama Kamatani defense earlier in the year in January happened. But that was an example of more of what this year was going to be booking wise for Stardom was a match like that, taking up a main event of a show. Saki Kashima defeats Fukin Death 3 minutes. Who cares? I already spoke about how disappointing even booking like that is. Don't see the point, especially third from the top. Just put it in the opener. Let's get something like, let's get something with more meat on the bones. Then we got to Mirai defeating Tam Nakano, 22.5 minutes. This was excellent. I'm pretty sure I have this as a top 4 women's match of the year. Mirai showed so much fire, and I loved how they started this match out, where they just went straight to forearms and really becoming physical out of the gate. Tam Nakano wants the best Mirai she could possibly be. A lot of fire behind it. I thought this was excellent, and once they got that first physicality out, then they went to the ground a little bit, more along the lines of Mirai's strengths, and Tam fell into it. Really sold the arm for a good chunk of the match. And it wasn't none of this typical Joshi Tam as the champion, just beating up on the challenger for 20 minutes. And then you have a 2-minute finish where Mirai gets a near fall or she ends up winning. I'm kind of referencing a like Chihiro Hashimoto type match there, which isn't my style. But Tam and Mirai went back and forth essentially for 20 straight minutes after that initial exchange, and the physicality was there. Mirai's jumping lariat looks better than ever. Now there's some force on there. Tam Nakano really built up some near falls well for herself winning, and Mirai kicking out, and vice versa. And Mirai winning with the kind of Etsuka Mita spinning Death Valley driver deal is a good feather in the cap for a strong finisher. Meltzer went 4.5 stars for this. I'm kind of right there with him. Maybe like a 4.5 star plus, if you will. A lot of people are doing that these days for ratings. I'm 3 out of 3 without question. And this is the right decision. You know, no reason to have the double title locked up in purgatory for the months that'll be during the 5-star. And I imagine Stardom wants to do a pay-per-view in the middle of the 5-star as they can kind of build up and take a pivot if need be during the middle of that. I like the placement of a pay-per-view kind of in the middle of the tournament. It makes it feel different and has a little bit more stakes as champions and people going for it might have a different strategy as they're in the middle. Just from a kayfabe perspective. But so we got Tam Nakano red belt solo, Mirai white belt solo, Mina Shirakawa, Maria May as the tag titles. I think these are excellent. I think these are excellent placements for champions. And then we get to the Indian strap match. Natsupoi loses to Ano. Expectedly, it went on for 26 minutes. I think that was way too long. Mostly because of the format that they went with. They went with you got to touch all 4 corners in succession deal. I referenced that Bull Nakano Kandori chain match, which ironically took place around the same time, about 30 years ago in mid-July. This was not that. It's kind of weird watching them do some high-speed moves, running the ropes, and doing some grapple exchanges when you're in the middle of a strap match. Didn't really do anything for me. I was thinking, man, this is boring. They're going to be wrestling forever. And the strap was weirdly long enough where they could probably go corner to corner to corner to corner without pulling on the opponent. So they had to make it seem like the opponent was down and holding on to the strap. So the opponent had to drag their weight to get to the corners. I guess I kind of like that from the defense perspective, if I'm really putting a lot of kayfabe thought into this match. It did end up getting to a point of physicality where they're using the strap and as a weapon and choking and putting submissions in, and they had the same rules as like a Texas what would it be, a Texas deathmatch deal where you gotta so you had to pin your opponent, really put them down definitively in order to have them be vulnerable in order to get to each corner in that sense. And again, Sauriano ends up winning this match. I think it was fine. I don't think it got to any level of good or even great by that means. I kind of put it on the same level of that Maki Ito Mizuki match where, it never reached a point where I was truly impressed or truly engaged with the drama that was being involved. I think in both cases it was a miss on the build. It was a miss in the match format, and probably the wrong decision with the way they went about it to be in that placement. So I think that does it for Stardom. I've spoken a lot about business again. The match ratings. I really enjoyed Tam Mirai. Tam Nakano, in terms of Joshi, Tam Nakano, I keep saying this, she's really being proven to be one of the greatest of the year, and pretty soon I'm going to put out my update over the time I've been doing this podcast for who has been the best women's wrestlers over the last 4.5 years. And that'll be on the Patreon, patreon.com/RedLeafRetroCast, special episode $5 tier. That's that Jaguar Chigusa Nagayo tier, if you will, for everything that you want to listen to there. Look forward to that episode. And that will take me into AJW as we continue our journey towards the Tokyo Dome show and the Budokan. I think that's quickly approaching at this point in time. So here we, you know what? I want to play this one. Here we go. Yeah, AJW Destiny Time. It's the section of RLR proper Red Leaf Retrocast where you can listen to the AJW Classics. We are on episode 93 of the Classics, which takes place on July 16th, 1994. From Saitama, Japan, capacity crowd of just under 2,000. Take that for what it's will. In AJW at the time. We are in the heart of the Japan Grand Prix. Spoke a little bit about that on the last episode. And this show takes place very shortly after a joint LLPW, FMW, AJW show from July 14th at the Tokyo Coliseum. That was a sold-out crowd of 8,000 plus. Mostly headed up by LOPW, where it was headlined by the Bull Nakano Shinobu Kandori chain match. And if you want to listen to that review in particular, that is on the LLPW podcast very recently, over the last few months. Did review that show on the Patreon, patreon.com/RedLeafRetrocast LLPW reviews each and every month. Highly recommend that particular episode. And we will start off with some news that was taking place at the time of All Japan Women, as we are, of course, gearing for the Tokyo Dome, the Budokan, lots of interpromotional workings and the like, and I will head towards my notepad here as I have a June update, and this is taken from the Wrestling Observer. Various message boards that were covering AJW late in the 2000s, really doing some historical aspects, Weekly Pro magazine, kayfabe interviews, but really it's a lot of news from the Observer, and I've kind of consolidated it into a number of different things that is led up to and just after this July 16th show. So I figured it's a good time to catch up on All Japan Women from this time period. I begin. All Japan Women opened Grand Prix 94 at Korakuen Hall on June 3rd, which sold out, going head-to-head with an All Japan Budokan show. First night tournament results saw Takako Inoue over Suzuka, Yumika Hota over Yamada, Saki Asagawa scoring her first win over Manami Toyota. Big undersold event there that happened. And the main event saw LCO retain their JWP tag titles over JWP tag titles over Kandi Okatsu and Hikari Fukuoka. 25 minutes. I was able to find that match. Highly recommend it. I'm kind of in between a 3 out of 3 and a 2 out of 3, just due to how slow the beginnings were. But Mita pinned Okatsu with her Death Valley driver bomb deal, which is pretty sick. Love the finish there. If you can seek that out, do it. It's the June 3rd Korakuen show. And then AJW's Wrestle Marine Piad in 1994 was announced to be headlined by Aja Kong, and she will defend the 3WA title against a tournament winner. And this tournament will be, the finals will be taking place at, the finals will be taking place earlier in August, September, in which then the match itself will be Marine Piad on October 10th, back in Kawasaki. So that's where we stand there, at least in terms of building up the All Japan Women. And of course, where would I be without mentioning the Tokyo Dome? Because that's a big part of 1994. And it's really impacting not just All Japan women booking, but as you hear from me month to month talking about how LLPW is trying to play a political game even within their own roster over who's going to hold their own title, what's Kandori going to be doing on that show. So political things and booking implications are all gearing towards this one Tokyo Dome show on November 20th. Key parts, let's see. It was announced publicly on June 3rd at a press conference in Japan, which at more than 5 months before showtime was a series of headlining matches announced farther ahead of time than anything in recent memories in terms of All Japan women. The card entitled has a name, Big Egg Wrestling Universe. So first time we've read the actual name of this show in news articles that I've been able to find. We'll also have festivities to celebrate both the 40th anniversary of the beginnings of pro wrestling in Japan and the retirement of Akira Hokuto, who has to rank at the nearer top of any greatest women's wrestlers of all time list. God damn it, I agree, because her run from 1990 until now has been incredible. It's a 4-year period, along with her tag matches in the late 80s. Do not discount that as anything other than great. While pro wrestling was actually introduced to Japan on a small scale by Americans before World War II, its birth, the original popularity in Japan is traced all of Japanese wrestling books to the formation of the Japanese Wrestling Alliance by Rickee Dozan. The main thrust of the show will be a one-night single elimination 8-woman tournament, with the promotion claiming a kayfabe $300,000 payoff awaiting to the winner to determine the new #1 women's wrestler in the world. Okay, this is where the LLPW booking comes into play. Current 3WA World Champ Aja Kong and Hokuto, who may have won the CMLL title by this time, were the only two names announced. So there you go. Hokuto turns 27 this summer, so that gives you an idea of how old she was at this time. Now works predominantly in Mexico after getting married to Talisman Jr. in the last year. The remaining 6 wrestlers will involve JWP, LLPW, and FMW, each sending a representative, most likely being Kansai, Kandori, and Kudo, respectively, for their promotions. All Japan Women sending 2 more representatives, whom will be the top 2 finishers in the Grand Prix tournament, which ends August 28th. Your best bets being Toyota and Yamada are the rumors, according to Weekly Pro and The Observer. And one more surprise name could be Chigusa Nagayo, and Lioness Asuka is a big rumor as well. Take that for what it's worth. In addition, Alundra Blaze, former Medusa Miceli, defends the WWF title against Bull Nakano on this card, since this will be Bull Nakano's final match in Japan before signing on with the WWF as a full-time roster member. Good chance this will be a title switch on the show, is the Observer speculation. And then, if that wasn't weird enough, Kyoko Inoue will be booked to have a kickboxing match against a European woman. Name not released. There will be an amateur wrestling match of Miyu Yamamoto. 19 won the national title in Japan. And will face the daughter of Animal Hamaguchi for historical purpose and fame purposes. And then there's various other aspects of the show of just being a super show involving all kinds of women's physical sports throughout the show. Okay, so that does it for June. And then I do have more. June 10th recap. Decreases at the gate for All Japan men's. New Japan, is because of their phenomenal business in 93, is wearing off. So therefore, there have been TV time switches for both groups, which is factoring into their loss of business. And so people are looking at their business failings of year over year, and they're only making about 70% of the capacity that they made in 1993. And according to Weekly Pro and The Observer, it wasn't too off their realistic expectations of what they were going to maintain for 1994. What's interesting is on June 18th, television ratings, All Japan women outdrew New Japan with a 1.9 over their 1.8, and All Japan men drew a 0.8. So this goes into kind of what I used to cover with the New Japan 90s reviews, that New Japan business-wise was much stronger than All Japan men pro wrestling. Despite All Japan, in my opinion, clearly putting out a superior in-ring product. But this Tokyo Dome thing is working for business in terms of All Japan women. They're getting higher television ratings than the men. They're having very much success in a house show business sense. They're selling out every Korakuen. It's impacting even other groups like LPGA and JWP for their increased business throughout 94. So the buzz is real. The Akira Hokuto retirement is real. The Bull Nakano farewell tour is real. So all of these factors are really helping All Japan women maintain stronger business on a year-over-year sense ever since 1989. So every year they've been able to increase their business since the if we look at the Nagayo retirement as like a hard stop and then where they were after that, and then going month to month, they've been able to increase their business with all of these booking strategy changes, in-ring style changes, the roster getting better, the roster coming into their own. And a big factor upon that is, from all research and understanding, is the Rossi Ogawa booking strategies and scheduling. Now, is the roster depleted and injured? Absolutely it is. That is a huge factor as well to why we keep seeing a lot of repeat matches and cards, which has been my major critique of 94. However, because the wrestlers just keep getting better and coming in their own, I keep pointing to like Yumiko Hota as being a prime example of someone who has just really leveled up in her ring, and Saki Asagawa is another one. These are more factors to why All Japan Women is pretty damn hot. And makes you wonder how they went out of business so quick in the bankruptcy in 3 years. But hey, we'll get there eventually, guys. So I go to another, as you can tell, this is going to be kind of a news-centric thing, as I just kind of, when we get to the show, you'll hear me just say, this match is good, it's awesome, go watch it. But tickets for the All Japan Women's Show, Tokyo Dome, had a one-day pre-sale on June 26th at the company's office in Tokyo. Akira Hokuto was brought back from Mexico to do an autograph signing and answer questions for the fans, so you know, your little meet and greet deal. And the office, as quoted by Weekly Pro, was pleasantly and highly surprised when over 1,000 fans were waiting in the office when it opened on Saturday morning, many of whom camped out for days prior to this. Like it's like a PS5 opening there. No confirmation on how many tickets were purchased, but it was confirmed that all 1,400 ringside seats, priced at almost $300 each, sold out immediately. So if you put that inflation number, it's excellent, to say the least. President Takashi Matsunaga announced the show would be the biggest women's show ever and said the card would feature every major women's star in Japan and have 20 matches. Dude's insane. Behind the scenes, there are problems because FMW and LLPW have copped an attitude and not wanting to send their top stars into the tournament because eventually they'll have to do a clean job for a wrestler from another promotion. FMW wants Combat Toyota instead of Kudo because of this, which explains its title change last week because the champion goes to the tournament, and LLPW is going to send Eagle Sawai instead of Kandori. Thus, they are planning to switch the title as well. Oh, hold the brakes on that LLPW one. Go listen. Here we go. Another plug. LLPW podcast on the Patreon. Eagle Sawai, spoiler, is not the champion. Kandori couldn't even do the job to Sawai in her own promotion. So yes, even by the context and myself obviously not being behind the scenes, you see it play out in real time in LLPW's booking on why this Tokyo Dome is impacting these other promotions. So there you go. And FMW is all about Onita and his ego and not doing that. Answers that, boys. There you go. I loved that confirmation, even from Weekly Pro and the Observer from the July 4th article. If you want the English word for, basically this Observer and Weekly Pro stuff is like side by side at this point in time in '94, because it's so much easier to get the information than it was, say, in the '80s. Okay. The problem from selling the show as a promoter is fans in Japan are smart enough to see the Toyota and Sawai are as obvious early round losers, whereas Kandori and Kudo aren't viewed that way. This also puts the July 14th LOPW Tokyo Gym main result in question. This is the Bull Nakano Kandori chain match. Bull Nakano reportedly had no problem doing the job for Kandori, but with LOPW acting this way, she may not be so obliging. Okay. So, there was some speculation within LLPW whether Kandori, they were going to allow Kandori to be on the show and be booked strong if she wasn't going to do the job if Kandori was going to do the job to Nakano in the chain match, she would be then allowed to be booked strongly for the Dome show. Okay? The original idea was Kandori gets the big win over Nakano in the chain match and then does the job in the tournament. So, can they come to an agreement and do the vice versa? Well, we know that Kandori loses the chain match, so you can clearly see how it's going to play out when they get time to Tokyo Dome. Very funny. All Japan Women also announced its August 24th Budokan Hall main event, which will be Hokuto and Kong against Hota and Kansai, which I found interesting. It is expected Hokuto will win the CMLL women's title in Mexico in late July. Mario Yoshida, who's been out of action for a year and a half with her broken neck, will return full-time at that Budokan show. Manami Toyota was reportedly injured on June 22nd and is out of action. No word of the severity of the injury. Well, spoiler, it wasn't that bad, and if it was, well, then you bet your ass the Matsunagas are going to make her get back in that fucking ring. And then it goes on and on and on for a number of other things. I kind of cleared up, and I want to talk about Mariko Yoshida. She's been out of action for more than a year with the broken neck. She'll return in house shows for 5-ish minute exhibition matches, leading to her full-fledged return at that August 24th Budokan Hall show. And then Reggie Bennett starts as a full-timer in August. Hooray! Bull Nakano is out of action with an injury, probably an angle for July 14th. Can confirm that from the LLPW reviews. Same thing with Kandori, because on a July 11th LLPW show, Shinobi Kandori faces her in a change match, accidentally was kicked in the eye by her tag partner Rumi Kazuma and went berserk and destroyed Mizuki Endo with an armbar, sold the eye huge, which was an angle to work the injury for their big chain match. I cannot recommend that chain match enough. I covered it extensively on that LLPW review. Go watch that match. Go listen to the review. Combat Toyota of FMW appeared at the show, did a stare down in the aisle with Eagle Sawai, and the two were held apart by the other woman after Eagle's match, issuing a challenge over the PA to build up their meeting for that same match on July 14th. So that plugs a lot of LLPW. That plugs my review. That tells you a lot of what's going on within the All Japan Women group at this time and what this fucking Tokyo Dome show is doing to these promotions internally and politically. All right. So yeah, this Saitama show from July 16th didn't air on broadcast until July 28th. But we did get a very interesting Mariko Yoshida return match, which went to like a 15-minute draw against Rita Mata, who's picking up some steam. There was an Arsari Kumiko Meikawa match that was okay prior, but Yoshida she's still in her like swimsuit gear. She's not in any. She's really being slowly brought back into capacity. Can her body hold up? Or at least that's the way they're playing it up, whether it's kayfabe or not. And not doing any of her springboard dives. Very noticeable. The crowd was very silent and kind of waiting for that stuff, for those that remember her. She was very ground and grapple based until they got to very minimal amount of suplexes. But needless to say, I thought this still had a lot of energy, especially from Rita Mata and Mariko Yoshida being out for a year and a half, getting her legs back from underneath her. Enjoyed this, nonetheless. The Etsukomita Infernal Maeda match defeated Kairi Ito and Watanabe. I'm not going to waste my time. You've heard my thoughts over this Ito tag match scenarios, and as long as... And Tomoko Watanabe isn't all that's cracked up to be at this point in time. So it was a lot of just kind of Mita being big and awesome, and then outside of that, a whole lot of nothing. Do not recommend this one. But these last 3 matches absolutely delivered. I adored these. The Mima Shimoda Takako Inoue match was amazing. I went full out of 3, 4 stars on that flat. Shimoda and Takako absolutely beat the shit out of each other. They did suplexes galore, drop kicks galore. They had a good swagger and ego about them in the match, and I just love how they're... Again, all these wrestlers are coming to their own. They're developing a lot of confidence in their matches. And Shimoda wins this match with, I shit you not, a tiger suplex off the top rope with Takako Inoue's legs, like she's sitting down on the turnbuckle. So she goes essentially neck first onto the mat and gets pinned. I screamed, and yet it was awesome. Fucking love this match. This was great. And then, shockingly, I thought nothing else was going to top that on this card. The Toshio Yamada Saki Asagawa match went 1947, and that was even better. 4 1/4, also 3 out of 3. Hasegawa and Yamada went to grapples, and then what was great was for the last half of the match and ending stretch, it was physical. It was trying to get the pin in a physical way. And I'll say this, too often we get into that marvelous trend of everything's got to be these quick looking pins trying to get flash wins over each other. While in this one, it led up to a finish where they were trying to use these pins, if they get a win over them, it's great, but really it was to set up them trying to get a transition into their next big move. So you'd see Yamada get kicked in the face, kick out at 2, and then as Saki Asagawa is catching her breath, she does a schoolboy. And then as Hasegawa kicks out and get into it, Yamada's already in position to kick her head off. I loved aspects of that in this match. And they went to dodging kicks, leading to an excellent finish where Hasegawa pulls off a big heel kick out of nowhere. And Yamada gets up, does a transition move, and the second Hasegawa turns around for the next move, Yamada gets her with a spinning sidekick and puts this woman out. I love this. It's 3 out of 3. It's great. And then we got our main event, which was a 23-minute awesome trios match. Imagine if Stardom had a Korakuen Hall main event and they put 6 awesome wrestlers in there, all clicking, and doing a little bit more fan engagement, I would say. That's this match here. It's Aja Kong, Bull Nakano, and Suzuka Minami. Bull Nakano, not really a big part of this match, to be honest. Defeating Kyoko Inoue, Minami Toyota, and Yumika Hota. This was a lot of Inoue and Aja Kong. And then it was a lot of Suzuka Minami going in there to take the brunt of damage with Yumika Hota. Nakano and Toyota had their few spots, but they were mostly kind of off to the side, which I was kind of okay with. But Aja Kong was phenomenal in this match. She's taken Inoue and Hota buckle to buckle over and over and over again, 6 times in a row. She's getting cocky. She's doing spinning back fists. She's really trying to go for the wins and interact with the crowd more. Aja Kong has leveled up big time. She is no longer that champion that was third from the top. She is the champion. She feels like a big deal growing in this promotion each and every month. And it ends with Aja Kong let's see, what did she reverse out of? I know she reversed out of the pyramid driver to go into the finishing Hurricane back fist, like a double axe handle Hurricane. But I think she kicked out of a tiger driver And then Hota went for the pyramid driver, and that's what led to the finish. So kind of similar, all kind of similar finishes with the Yamada in this match, to be honest. But I was 2 out of 3 here. I think it was a little too upper echelon house showy from what I've seen from AJW. But the 2 matches before this and this one, if you go 3 out of 3, I wouldn't shock you. 4 stars flat kind of deal. Love this match. Love this show. I like Yoshida coming back from her. You remember if she during the Grand Prix, she went for a just running the ropes, and she just snapped her neck off the back real bad. And that was the end of it. She was all beat up prior to that, so it was just compounding injuries, and finally their body failed on her. So she's back. Looking forward to that Budokan show. That is, I believe, the next episode. And let's see. That spans 3 episodes in a row. I might just do short, like 15, 20-minute episodes covering those matches in depth. I might just do that. Just to keep in line with the classics and go from there. Once again, guys, if you're listening on All Japan Women Destiny, consider subscribing to the Patreon, patreon.com/RedLeafRetrocast. If you want to listen to these episodes in conjunction with other Joshi, might I recommend RLR proper Red Leaf Retrocast on all your outlets. Guys, that does it for All Japan. Rickee, here we are. New format to the podcast. We're getting you a little later, and I'll just reiterate kind of what I said at the start of the podcast. We're going to have probably our little banter section here with you, and then we'll go into kind of what we've been watching, and then, but essentially it's putting a lot of the women's wrestling and that kind of stuff at the start. It's the most popular stuff. I usually like doing a format change annually. But I didn't really do it at the start of this year for whatever reason. But I felt like doing it now because of all the things I want to introduce to the early part of the podcast. And then it'll kind of change things up a little bit. So it'll be you and I talking about more of the Western side and the New Japan side of wrestling, along with AEW. And then we'll go right into WCW 2000.
Yeah.
So it'll be the Rickee block, as we'll call it.
Yeah. So generally I am a fan of change. So I hope this goes well. I hope people stick around.
Yeah, definitely. Hope so. So I watched, first, I finally mowed my lawn. That's very important to mention here, because if you hear me cough, it's because I'm suffering the allergic after effects of mowing a 9-month-old lawn.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Yeah. So I had to take a weed whacker to essentially a wheat field of stuff and then do a lawnmower. But here's the thing. I can't really afford the stuff that works right now.
Sure.
So I have to deal with like kind of old and busted and duct taped equipment until I finally saved up and bought a weed whacker. So the next one's going to be a lawnmower,
Essentials.
considerably more expensive.
Sure.
Clearly. So this is how it went down. Obviously been playing a lot of golf, so I'm very used to grass these days and being in the woods and tall stuff.
Because you're a really good golfer.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. I'm really trying. I made it very clear in all my Twitter posts and whatnot that I am a beginner by all accounts of
That's
skill.
what I'm saying. That's why you're spending so much time in the woods. Because you're so good.
Yeah, so I finally got one of these stupid old equipment things to work. I've been like fiddling with it for weeks because the grass hasn't become a problem. I was like waiting, okay, how long until my neighbors start getting like aggravated with all the tall stuff? And finally one just goes, look, we've mowed like our section so your weeds aren't coming in for the last 2 months now. Can you like do that? I'm like, yeah, I guess so. It was like the dejected child reaction of, yeah, you're right.
Eeyore, thanks for noticing.
Yeah. I just kind of had a big smile on my face, and then it went to kind of a frown one. It was just like, yeah, I'm aware. My bad. It's like I had no excuse or anything. You know. So there I am. I had to wait because it's been like quite hot the last few weeks, but
Yeah.
anyways, I took a weed whacker at like 7:30 at night on Monday.
Mhm.
Okay. And this sucker, this is front and back. My house, I don't have a huge yard by any means, and I very much prefer it that way. So took a weed whacker. It took forever to do it. I did get it done. So there's two in the garage, two weed whackers. One I had to pull apart because it said cordless, and I went, "Oh, that's awesome. What do I got to do to charge this thing?" It's from like 2003, and the battery is absolutely toast. Does not work, and of course they don't make it anymore.
Of course.
So I'm like, okay, this might as well be in the garbage now. So that one was worthless.
Okay.
And then, of course, the spool I bought. I don't know what you call a weed whacker thing.
Yeah.
I call it a spool, a fishing rod reel.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like you said spool, and I instantly know what you meant. So
Yeah.
even if that's not what they call it,
Right.
I instantly knew what you meant.
Naturally, I bought the wrong size.
So
So I had to deal with I was fumbling around the garage, just like hoping there was another one in there, and there was like kind of one that was a fourth left. I'm like, aha, maybe this will work. And it did, and it lasted exactly to the end. Until I whacked down the last weed that was super thick, and it just went done. I was like, good timing. So the point is, got it done, and then I had to pull out the lawnmower because the rough is thicker than like an Augusta National. Yeah. So the point is, it's really thick rough. Like I know I'm using like golf terms to describe that now.
I understand.
Yeah. So I've tried for about 3 months trying to get this lawnmower to work. I've even asked like friends and not family because none of them live close. Sad as that is to say, but nobody has anything they could borrow, or there's just no time, or they pay somebody to do it for them, etc. And I'm like, well, I can't do any of that. You guys are useless to me. So. I've been looking for like spare parts to get this thing running again. This lawnmower is corded, much like the weed whacker. So I have this like 100-foot long extension cord plugged into this fucking thing. None of the parts are made anymore. Only like the bare basics. Not even the blade to the lawnmower is made anymore. So I took this thing off. I brought it to work. I grounded it, or resharpened it at the best I could. Lots of duct tape, just like the weed whacker, like with the handle and everything, and there's like electrical parts coming out of it. The one thing I couldn't fix was getting the blade sharp enough to like get through thicker stuff.
Okay.
And a vital part of a lawnmower, the handle, the thing you like push the thing with. It's broken. And it's got like snap mechanisms where you can do the different levels. The only snap I was able to fix and work is, of course, the highest one. So now the actual push part's like above your chest. So it's impossible to actually push the lawnmower.
Oh.
So here I am. And you have to like hold a handle at all times, otherwise it stops. Okay. So it's corded.
Okay.
I have to hold this handle. The entire handle's broken, and it has to be up. So every like foot, I have to push the lawnmower a couple like inches and feet with my foot, and then walk up to it, and then push, and then walk up, and then pull it back.
Did anyone film you doing this?
Luckily, I did it at night, so I was very incognito to it all. Oh my god. So that took ages, and I was just an absolute wreck afterwards. I wore a mask while I was doing all this. It kind of helped, but I've been buried in allergic reactions for like days. It's Thursday now, so that gives you an idea of me being okay. Like if we were recorded Tuesday or Wednesday, I would have just been coughing and hacking, like pollen and crickets that I disturbed their homes. So that was my adventure in home ownership. Did you enjoy that story?
I really did, because the visual of you with that lawnmower was too good. I wish somebody had filmed it.
Yeah, I was told the story at work, and they're like, why don't you just buy a lawnmower? Oh, I'm sorry, do you have $500? And I got golf stuff to buy. I have priorities.
Priorities. I get it.
Yeah. I watched Dragongate for some wrestling talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So you know how I've been down on Dragongate essentially all year. Not really kind of feeling the promotion. I liked its Lucha Libre-esque attitude and style, but they've really diverted away from that style over the last couple years, I would say. At least through the pandemic, for sure. Well, last year was Kobe World. It's their biggest show, and it was pretty bad. Okay?
Oh.
Absolute failure. So then this year was kind of redemption. I haven't loved the lead up to this at all. I thought it was actually lazy, and they didn't do anything. All they did was plug that Hiromu is going to face Yamato on the show. Shingo is making an appearance. Of course, it wasn't a comedy match, so who cares? And then a big mask 5-way steel cage survival match, something straight out of AAA, essentially. Since they aren't doing the steel cage gimmick in Aichi anymore. Stardom is actually, which is kind of funny. So a lot of the show's kind of upheal was Ultimo Dragon putting his mask on the line, Hiromu and Shingo, New Japan stars helping draw the house and interest.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, if it draws the crowd, they did their job. And it got, 5,100 people there. It's one of the bigger Japanese attended shows of the year. Not bigger than Stardom, but they gave a good effort trying to punch in the cheat code that is New Japan. Just want to point out when Stardom got New Japan talent on their show, they got 7,500. But anyways,
Okay.
there's my subtle, not so subtle digs. But anyways, in terms of this show, it's like, did I love it? And I can't say I did. I thought it was plagued with much of the things that I've had issues with over this period of time with Dragongate. Just kind of not so interesting short matches in the openers. The Bravegate title seems like a total afterthought. It's a 10-minute or less mid-card title. If you can even call it a mid-card, it feels lower end at this point, especially after the last year and a half of title reigns. Just haven't been interesting. Then a lot of the tag matches that were featured in the mid card with Keno and Masashi Mochizuki, M3K and Gold Clash, just not interesting. All of these matches were 10 minutes or less. So I'm like, okay, maybe the top of the card will kind of save it, and it's just your kind of typical Japanese puro build to the end type show. New Japan does it, etc., etc. So I'm like, all right, Hiromu Yamato, here we go. And it was kind of boring. 14 minutes of just kind of nothing. Hiromu might as well pulled a Naito and wrestled with his t-shirt on in the middle of Toronto.
Aww.
I'm like, okay, maybe the trios match. Dragongate's awesome with trios matches. One of my favorite matches ever are their trios matches when it comes to this promotion. I love KZ, Jackie Funky Kamai, Big Boss Shimizu. Surely they'll have a great defense. Naruki Doi's coming back. It was also boring and pretty short. It was 12 and a half minutes. I'm like, okay, the Dreamgate match, the main title. It's the semi-main event. I'm banking on Kakuta and Yoshioka to give me a 20-minute, I don't know, at least Dragongate match of the year. Will at least give me that. And it was 23 minutes of, boredom. I couldn't believe what I was watching. And, I had to take a break before I even got to the main event, because I'm like, I can't finish this show on this day. Really didn't enjoy it at all. And then I got to the cage match, and it's a 38-minute marathon. Yeah, they told some stories in the match regarding, pairs and things they've been kind of telling all year or throughout the last couple years. But really, it was I mean, it came down to Shun Skywalker tricking this guy Diamante and handcuffing him, walking out. A good heel move. Felt like a flat finish to the match, to be honest. I think that would have been better suited for kind of a midpoint in the match and really tease someone we care about losing their mask. Because honestly, as much as Diamante has been kind of I would say backbone worker to the promotion, he's not a star yet. And to me, what makes a cage match important and what makes it more investing to a fan, at least in my case here, if it came down to like Dragon Kid and Skywalker and someone, I don't know, I'm just like fantasy booking in my head to what actually happened, but the point is, like, I don't have a problem with the finish per se or who lost. It was just kind of how they did it and how they got there. Is I mean, some Dragon Gate fans are saying it's like match of the year, and I don't know. Even Cage Match doesn't agree with that. It has an 8.41 out of 10. So even your most ardent fans who vote on this thing is like, yeah, it was good. I went 2 out of 3 recommendation, and I would say, I don't know. I guess it would be the match of the night, and I'm like not even confident about that. So I'm like super out of Dragon Gate now. I'll pop in, maybe talk about their next major show, look at that, but I'm kind of done with their kind of Corkins. I'm done with their Kyoto shows I used to watch all the time. In fact, it's kind of funny. They just fixed their Dragon Gate Network service where you no longer have to watch a show within a week and then it disappears. Now it's on there for, I think it's a year that you have. So now there's no hurry to watch everything, which is nice. But of course, it comes at a time when I'm less interested in the product than ever. So I end up canceling the service.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm just done with it. I'll pop in. I'll probably find alternative means to watch the major shows. But yeah, I'm gonna save my X amount of dollars a month now. Call Dragon Gate done for the time being.
Okay.
Yeah. Watch some King of Gate matches. They were okay, I guess. I mean, when you have a Corkin Hall main event and it goes 10 minutes in the first round, I'm like not very pleased.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just not it doesn't feel like a hot promotion. Everything feels cold. It doesn't feel like they have superstars anymore. They're trying to, it's funny, all these promotions, including New Japan, are like they're labeling their next generation of stars. You did you hear about this with like Yoda and company being the next 3 Musketeers?
Okay. No, I hadn't heard.
You hadn't heard about that? Yeah, they named Umino, Ren Narita, and Tsuji as like the next.
Yes. No, I had heard that. But that's, I mean, they didn't need to tell us that. I mean, with their words, we knew by the way they were booking, we knew that that's what they were doing.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, AEW has the Pillars, New Japan has the Musketeers, Dragon Gate has what they call the Big Six, and I'm like looking at their Big Six and going, I don't know if those are the right guys. I was like, Strong Machine J, I don't know about him, guys. You can't pick somebody else? No? Okay, well, I guess it's when all your top prospects keep leaving, you got to take with what you can get, I guess. They could have called it a Big Four, and maybe that would have been better. But, what'd you watch?
Other than the shows that we're going to dive into on a slightly deeper level, some indie stuff, bits and pieces of different shows. And I didn't watch a whole show, but I watched some of the recent West Coast Pro show. GCW was in Hartford. I watched some of that because some of our East Coast favorites were on that show.
Yes. Did you watch the Utami Billy Starks match?
I did.
Okay.
That was the one that I texted you.
Yes.
Because I was watching it live and I texted you and I said, I'm sure Utami has had better matches than this, but this is pretty good. I'm not familiar with Utami other than what I've heard from you. Her entrance popped me. Like, her entrance goes so hard. I watched her enter that night, and then the next day on JCW, she had a match with Janai Kai, which I didn't watch the match. I watched up to her entrance. Then I think the dog did something or something. I don't remember, but I didn't end up watching that whole show either.
Supposedly, Janai Kai is on her way to Japan for a couple months, so maybe,
that would be good.
Maybe Stardom. Hello, Cat. Maybe Stardom's in her future. Maybe like more TJPW. Who knows?
She's had multiple TJPW matches now at this point, I think. So it'll be interesting to see where she ends up.
Yeah. People are heavily speculating the company called GLEAT.
Is that the New York Joshi promotion?
No. We might as
okay.
well bring that up now, though. But no, GLEAT is what I've joked about as a Yakuza money front.
Oh.
Yeah. It got me in trouble.
Gotcha.
Because apparently the GLEAT people like to peruse on Twitter.
Oops.
I was like, wasn't totally serious. But then I made it. Okay, you've heard of the game Yakuza, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I was
yes.
basically joking around that I didn't take the promotion seriously, and again making it like a money laundering front for whatever. And then I posted a bunch of like clips from the Yakuza game, and then they vanity searched their own promotion and went on this like big tangent over defending just because we're in this like Yakuza area of Tokyo and it's also in the game doesn't mean. I was like, whoa, hold on, I didn't know any of that. Funny stuff. But anyways, yeah, I expect she could show up there in that terrible promotion. I think it's pretty bad.
Gotcha.
They do a lot of MMA, like real stuff that's very shitty.
Oh, that's up her alley, though.
Yeah.
She would be well suited for that.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I watched the Utami Billy Starks match. What did you think of that match?
I mean, it was okay. I've seen the Billy Starks match with like Miyu Yamashita and other people before. It reminded me of that, just a nice little like 2.5 star thing. I was like, okay. I didn't think much of it.
I super enjoyed it, but again, I don't watch a ton of women's wrestling at a high level. So
when we watch AEW and some WWE, we certainly don't.
Right.
Did you see my tweet, by the way? Because I went on a little like tweet rant over kind of
I see most of your tweets.
The standard of like women's wrestling outside of like Stardom this year is super low.
Yes.
And I specifically mentioned like between AEW, WWE, and Impact Wrestling, they have like 4 good matches through July.
Mm-hmm.
4.
Yeah.
That is awful.
It's really bad. And
with
then when
all
you
that
put
talent
out,
too, that's available.
Yeah. And then when you put out the number of matches that the Joshi wrestlers have had total in AEW, it's like how many they've had in Japan for the year, and it's only 6 months in. Right?
Oh yeah, that was just me messing around because friends.
No, but that is a problem. Like, I think
that was me just joking, but also I guess it's also a serious stat too.
It's serious and it is terrible. I think my response to you was a meme that had like, I don't know if I should laugh at this or be sad about it, was my reaction, because I didn't know if I should laugh or be sad. Like, I feel like that is problematic.
Yeah. For those that don't know the reference or haven't seen kind of the jokey tweets that I did, it was it all started in the Red Leaf Retrocast Discord where we're talking about just like Riho amount of matches, where she had more matches in her 1 year in Stardom than she has in her entire AEW run. Then we all just kind of started expanding on that with like Maria May, who's only been wrestling in Stardom for 6 months, has more matches than Britt Baker in AEW. Total in 4.5 years.
Yes.
Total. Hikaru Shida in a single year in 2019 has had more matches in her entire AEW career. Things like that. It wasn't very hard to find. It took like a simple search. But yeah, I mean that's what we're dealing with.
It was pretty funny that your rant came out when it did, because at the same time, one of the popular fan Twitter accounts posted the total number of matches that the top 20 people who have had the most matches in AEW so far.
Oh, I haven't
And there
seen
are
this
only
one.
and there are only 2 women on it.
Okay.
Nyla is in the top 10, but like lower end of the top 10.
So that's a
and
lot
then
of
number-
AEW dark matches.
Yep. And then number like 17, 18, 19 is Emi Sakura.
Who's exclusively on like AEW dark and stuff.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So a bunch of 3 to 5 minute squashes over and over and over and over again.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
So that's women's wrestling in the West. Yeah, so that's what I watched. Just a bunch of random indie stuff, and I didn't watch a whole show. I do want to point out though that I did watch the majority of the Beyond show from July 10, what day was
it was
that?
Sunday. It was
9th,
Sunday.
Sunday the 9th. Because I was eagerly anticipating the return of Matt Mikowski. He was one of my favorites on the indies before he got injured. He tore an ACL and maybe also an MCL. Like, it was really bad, whatever he did.
Fucked
he
up
was
his leg or something. Like, it was bad.
It was out for 18-ish months. And I have missed him and missed his presence. And I thought he had a really solid match against Dan Barry. It was longer than I thought it was going to go, but it ended the way I thought it would end, with Mikowski instantly just putting him in a submission move, and Dan Barry tapped instantly. So that match did everything that I wanted it to do. And I'm happy Matt's back, and he's going to start getting more bookings. And we'll see where he goes from here. And I think that's it.
Watch anything else? I guess not. Well, a lot of Joshi I watched, but everyone heard that at the beginning of the cast. But
Sure.
I was joking with a lot of just to continue. One last comment before we get into AEW.
Yeah.
A lot of us, because the Discord is very much filled with a lot of women's wrestling fans, women's sports as well is kind of funny.
Women's World Cup is coming.
I'm very excited for that. Yeah,
I'm
very
so
pumped.
excited.
It's
I
one of my
love World
favorite
Cup.
events of the year, or every
Same.
4
I
years.
love World Cup soccer no matter what, but the Women's World Cup, especially, for whatever reason, it just gets me. The passion, I don't know. I love it. I love Women's World Cup, and I cannot wait for the tournament to start.
Women's World Cup, Winter Olympics.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that stuff.
Okay. We are Winter Olympics people. Did you know we're in the majority? Like, the vast public prefers Summer Olympics over Winter Olympics.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like a running thing.
Yeah. Both hockey fans and, you know.
But yeah, that's true. That makes sense. And you
weird
live in Canada,
weird off season
so...
this year. Very strange. A lot of like lower guys
the moves?
being traded and signing like 3 to 4 year deals. Yeah. Like the Avs lost basically all their third and fourth line guys. They got to really rebuild all that, but that's okay. They're meant to be replaceable in the first place, and then you build a different unit around.
And then you
got.
rebuild. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we will go into AE Dubs. Here we go.
The one-winged angel screams. It fuels my hopes and dreams. The best promotion.
All right. We are a week out from Blood and Guts, one of the bigger events of the year for AEW that isn't a pay-per-view. Rock on. I will not be going to that show. For
Even
various
with
reasons.
the announcement
Yeah.
of the fifth men.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of knew that. I mean, Pac definitely surprised me for his involvement, so that's cool.
This girl popped so hard. You know, Pac is like my favorite. So, and that, oh my gosh, came out of fucking nowhere. Loved, oh my gosh. I constantly am asking myself, where is Pac? Why hasn't he been on TV? Put Pac back on my television, you cowards. And he showed up and he's going to be in this match. Sorry to jump the gun and get into that part. But
what's the biggest
just
match
ecstatic.
story going on?
He is, I mean, he has been an elite hater from the very beginning. From the AEW press conference outside the stadium before Double or Nothing, he confronted Hangman Page.
Right.
So
he's perfect. He's perfect. I really like that twist.
I thought it was going to be Despy. I really did.
Or Shota Umino, but he's in the G1.
Well,
so yeah, Desperado would actually make a lot of sense considering what happened and what happens with Moxley and Desperado and company. Yeah. Oh, that would have been that would have been cool. And he's not in the G1.
Thanks. I thought so too. I thought of that. I thought of all of that.
But yeah, Kota Ibushi was
Pac is
revealed
a
in a
great
video
fit.
package, which I thought was very strange.
But you thought he was going to show up in Saskatoon to a crowd of 340 people?
There was more than 340 people in Saskatoon. Thank you.
392.
No, it just seemed weird that it was just a video package. You know, it seems WCW-esque. You know, where you just like blurt out a name and you're like, oh, okay. Just it seemed weird.
A little bit, but I think because everybody was expecting it to be Kota, I don't know that it made a huge difference.
Then why not just have him be the reveal at the show then itself?
Yeah. That would have been a choice,
right?
For sure. I don't know which choice would have been the right choice, but I like yours too.
So I think the match is going to be excellent, no doubt. What kind of is shocking to me is this continuation of this lethal lottery tournament that they're doing. We never got brackets from the start. Never saw them. We didn't even know the teams until it was just like, oh, this is the team now, and here's a match.
I don't think they knew the teams.
No, I don't think so either.
I literally don't think they knew the teams. And Will Washington, who's very active on Twitter, because he had an active fan base before he went to AEW. At one point, he's good now about getting AEW fans to interact when he, retweets an announcement or whatever. He retweeted the lethal, whatever they're calling it in AEW, blind eliminator.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what funky matchups would you like to see? And like, I'm wondering if they use that to build matches. Like, I really don't think they knew who some of the teams were going to be.
It was definitely, the matchups were super random, but
some of them
teams, like the teams that they wanted to like win and push a little bit, I'll put that in quotes.
Sure.
Had the quirky, what do you know, they're together things like we saw on WCW.
Right.
So it's come down to MJF and Cole, who I really don't like these wacky backstage, like lifting weights and what's up?
You're just wrong. You are wrong.
You like them.
These vignettes are amazing. Yes.
Well, I'm glad you like
them. I love them. I love everything about MJF and Adam Cole right now. Everything.
I'm glad you like it.
You're wrong. I'm just kidding. Obviously, you're allowed to have your opinion and you're allowed to like things and not like things.
I like the banter. It's fine.
But I just want our listeners to know that I'm not that person. And I let people like what they want to like. I am not judgy. You're wrong, though. Those segments are great.
It just seems super weird that they're doing this while also making it build to a world title match. Nothing seems to make sense to me over why they're doing it, just from like a creative standpoint.
So obviously someone's turning on somebody at some point. Presumably MJF on Adam Cole.
Okay, so my point came to me. So now they're in the finals against Guevara and Garcia. Okay.
Yes.
Let's assume they have a great match. Cole and MJF, I'm assuming they lose. In this case. Okay?
Okay.
I'm assuming they lose. For all I know, they could win. And then they lose to FTR. Who knows? Maybe they win. Whatever the scenario.
Yeah.
In the scenario that they lose, okay.
Yes.
What ends up happening, because I could already see it going down, is once they lose, the focus is going to be on their loss rather than the winners to be the challengers for the tag titles. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It really takes the steam and momentum off of even caring about what this tournament is, which is supposed to be for the tag title chance. Okay?
Right.
Now, if MJF and Cole win, and they go on to win the tag titles, okay. To me, it kind of has to get to that step for a lot of it to matter. Okay?
Okay.
Because even then, these vignettes of them bonding and becoming buddies and this like buddy cop routine that's straight out of like 1999 that is I just think stuff
maybe
like
that's why I like it. I missed that whole era of wrestling. Maybe that's why I like it.
Do you remember the Sheamus and Claudio Castagnoli the bar kind of segment where they fought each other a bunch and then they like bonded over beating people up in the Irish pub? Like shit like
maybe it sounds familiar. I was definitely watching WWE during the bar period. So
I'll even admit the bar ended up being a really cool act. Those vignettes worked because the end goal was them becoming a good tag team and putting on banger matches.
Right.
This world title with MJF thing really puts a damper in that because that's always the end goal. And it's not there's lines crossing to me that I just can't really get behind. That's where it's losing me.
So maybe the turn doesn't happen right away. Maybe they go on a tag run. Maybe they don't win the tournament, but they go on a run of tag matches. Win, 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 win. Maybe they do win. Whatever. Either way. And then maybe instead of leading to a title match for all out, but then who would MJF's opponent be?
you see, it seems like the path for this story to actually work and to get me, the fan, invested. There's forks in the road that doesn't make this end goal work.
Yeah.
While Blood and Guts, on the other hand, for months and months, everything that's been involved with these guys has worked from start to finish, and you see the path ahead, and you're excited for each step to come. I'm actually going to say this: why the Bloodline has worked so well for many, many fans out there is the fact you see the path ahead. You see the turn.
You know where it's going.
Right. You see the turns coming. You see the next step. Still don't agree with like the Sammy and Cody thing aspect to it, but at least in terms of like their fan base caring about Jey Uso and company, it's because you got step A, B, C, and D going to the points of the story, and when wrestling stories seem to work the best is when you can see the path forward.
I agree.
In multiple steps, not just like this is the end goal.
I don't know that it's necessary that you can see the exact path forward. You can see that there is a path.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can see that there is a path. There is a story they're trying to tell in AEW with Adam Cole and MJF. Maybe it's fun and good that we don't know where it's going. Maybe they will surprise us.
It's possible.
Sometimes it's okay. It's okay to get got.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm not afraid. I'm not like, okay, there is certainly aspects of fandom today where fans are afraid to get worked. I'm all about getting worked. I'm more interpreting the story and how it's going to work, or how it's not going to work. Which I feel the way that we've gotten through these points and where we're heading isn't quite working to the end goal that they think it will.
I definitely hear your concern. I am not concerned though.
I did get a kick out of MJF and Cole like hitting on the women at the bar.
Well, MJF was hitting on the women. Adam Cole said, "No, I'm with Britt."
Right.
Like,
MJF goes, "Okay, cool,
I'm
4 for me."
4 for me.
Like that's good. Yeah, that part's good.
But I loved the in-ring stuff from this week as well. With the, Adam Cole finally showing that he's wearing the t-shirt, and then they win the match, and then MJF asks if there's any Satan worshiper or devil worshippers, and there's a Satan chant. And then the Adam Cole, do the thing. Like, MJF is not turning babyface anytime soon. I mean, like, I'm saying, like, not even in 4 or 5 years. Like,
I'm telling you, this, I think, like, I might not be into this right now, but there's definitely legs to it. If the longer, like look, the longer they drive this out, the more people are going to want the turn.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
I'm going to go back to my original statement. They should just win the tag titles.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah. You said they were going to lose. I'm fine with that.
Well, it just, for the story to reach the point where I will get invested and it'll have legs, they have to win the tag titles to me. Because I think it'll be, I think they, in order for the story to work, they have to win the tag titles.
That's fair.
And I'll put another step in it, because Guevara and Garcia are in the in the finals with them, with that ongoing Jericho might join Callis and the Guevara split or Garcia split, whomever, their loss would benefit their story.
It's true. That's true.
So if it's just straight up Garcia and Guevara win and they go to the finals, I think that puts a damper in. Okay. You see where I'm saying, like, the path I see.
MJF and Adam Cole, I do think, have to win the tournament. I don't think they have to beat FTR for the titles, because FTR has Punk and whoever else around that, I mean, they're faces, I guess, but, like, they're all turning heel at some point, right? FTR, Punk.
They should.
So
you know what? You know what would be a cool double turn? Another fantasy booking scenario here, but
okay.
Cole and MJF go to whatever show, whatever pay-per-view, or whichever it is, and they do lose to FTR, but they do the CM Punk FTR turn during the match, which pseudo turns Cole and MJF face.
More face. Even more face. Yeah.
And MJF can continue being his conniving, like, douchebag-like character. People are going to like him anyways.
Yeah, and he can be a face because he is sympathetic as a like, deep down, he is just a hurt child.
Oh, God.
He doesn't know how to trust people. He's a hurt child who has no friends, doesn't know how to trust anyone. So his MO has always been hurt them before they can hurt me.
The more I think about
people,
it,
he doesn't hurt people because he's a bad guy. He hurts people because he doesn't want to be hurt.
The more I think about it, like, if CM Punk comes in and, like, gets the ring and helps FTR, like, that tells more into the story of MJF, and, like, it all comes to, like, it seems so obvious, us just talking about it for, like, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And why this all works. Do I think they're going to go that way? Do you think they're going to go that way?
I don't know.
Are we confident they're going to go that way?
I don't know. I get worked up in my fantasy booking, and then I get really upset that when my great idea doesn't happen. But usually,
that's true. That is dangerous. That is a dangerous path.
It's the danger of fantasy booking. But usually, usually whatever AEW comes up with is better than what I came up with anyway. So
maybe.
usually.
I would say the
Although-
worst case scenario is they just kind of stick with a short path where they just lose the next match. They do a split, and then Garcia and Guevara lose the finals. They do their split. FTR does their thing. Like, that's kind of like a more simplistic path, and it works for what they're going for.
I mean,
It just it isn't very. It's not very like. Doesn't
compelling.
rock my socks off very much.
Right.
Yeah. I think those are elements that AEW is really missing in 2023 to me.
I think
A lot of skits lately too.
not a lot. What else?
What the fuck was
Besides
with
the
that
MJF
Harley
stuff.
Cameron like music video thing? I was so lost watching it. I'm like, what am I watching?
But it was so good.
But why?
Oh my god. Because she's brilliant and insanely talented, and
It's
also
a
hot,
wrestling
so
show. If I
everybody
want
got
to watch like a YouTube Friday music video, I'll turn that on.
I mean, we can get into that when we get to WCW because
Oh my
I
God,
wrote
yeah.
that like 17 times in my notes about WCW this week. But I think
Maybe WCW is like bleeding into my thoughts of AEW, where everything reminds me of it, and I'm just like immediately
Yeah.
aggravated. This reminds me
Yeah,
of
that's-
WCW. Fuck off.
yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. Why is
I
Brooke?
think-
Why is Miss Hancock singing in front of me?
Okay, but you said lots of skits, right? But
I
that's
almost said
one
Brooke
per
Tessmacher.
show.
What the fuck? Where the fuck did that come from?
That's one vignette per show, though. It's
Ugh.
not 17 backstage segments or
That's
vignette,
true.
Pre-recorded vignettes. It's one per show,
That's
plus
true.
a couple backstage segments, backstage interviews that are short, like 30 seconds. I'm okay with that.
Yes, this is not WCW levels by any means. I'm not saying that.
It is sports entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean,
There-
you have to tell a
How
story
many vowels
somehow.
were in
Like,
that?
so, sports entertaining is what I said.
Okay.
Oh.
You got to buy
Only
a
one
vowel next
extra.
time, Vanna.
Only one extra, sometimes a vowel at the end. Okay, so that's our thoughts on MJF and Adam Cole.
What else is
has
there?
happened?
Let's see here. Collision.
Joe Punk.
Joe Punk. I enjoyed the match, hated the finish.
100%.
I thought the finish was lazy. I thought it was stupid. If the
and
whole
I've heard-
point was the choke out at the end, he should have just won the match that way.
Yeah, I agree. I've heard defenses of the roll up, like
No.
comparing
Fucking
it to
roll-ups,
like
they do
other. Well, it's a victory roll. It's not a surprise roll up. So like, there's like there is that. I mean, it wasn't a surprise roll up. It was a victory roll. But
You know, I saw a tweet after the match, and it like
Okay.
it really popped me. It was
okay,
It was, yes, my name is Tony Khan. I just booked CM Punk's first victory over Samoa Joe in 20 years via roll-up. I will not be taking any questions at this time. I'll see you next week.
yeah. When you put it that way, it is very disappointing.
Right? They had all this Ring of Honor foot. Why is my room like blue? What is happening?
I don't know. Is that happening in real life and not just through
Yes.
the computer lens? Your room literally just turned blue. Is there a police car outside?
Maybe. Anyways,
Oh, then wouldn't it be flashing even if there was police or emergency outside?
it's coming through the window. So
Yeah, I bet it's an emergency vehicle or those like horrible blue LED.
Oh,
that
there's
people
probably
have.
there's probably a shitty car outside. Actually, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I bet that's what it
random.
is.
But
Sorry, folks, who are listening and can't see this.
So they have all this Ring of Honor footage. Also, rest in peace, Ring of Honor. Death Before Dishonor is just looking like a shit show more and more.
Mm.
Won't even.
Well, you heard the latest.
Yeah, Mark
like an hour
Briscoe
ago,
like
right?
tore his leg
Yeah.
in half. So
Yeah. So
I don't know why he
that
was
show
getting
is
like
gonna
the main
be-
title shot, anyways.
I mean, I haven't been watching the show, so I don't know
Nobody
the
has.
storyline reason
It's all
why.
right. What story?
I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it anyway because pay-per-views they never disappoint. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna enjoy the matches. Shut up.
Wasn't in love with the last one. Wasn't
What
in
was the
love with
last
it.
one? What
That was
the last one?
the I thought bad Kingston Claudio main event.
Oh, I don't even remember what my thoughts or
Samoa Joe,
opinions
Mark
were on that
Briscoe.
show.
Samoa Joe beat his ass. They did announce a little tournament in Ring of Honor because I guess AEW.
Oh, the $25,000 tournament, right? No,
Oh, that's another one,
that's
isn't it? Or is that the same one, but now it's for the TV title? Someone's facing Samoa Joe, and it's like 4 people.
Oh, I don't know. I just know Dalton Castle was going to win $25,000 and go to the farmer's market and buy a plant and the fanciest jams.
You know what? I did see a Willie Mack promo where he was saying, "You know what I could buy for $25,000."
Willie Mack is great. I'm so glad they like him in Ring of Honor.
He's funny. I like I enjoy Willie Mack.
Yeah.
Let's see. More. Is there anything? You know what? Best match of the 2 weeks was not Kenny Omega Wheeler Yuta. It was actually the Pew Pew Club against the FTR guys, Hair
Bang,
and
bang,
Bald.
gang.
The Bang Bang Gang.
No, you have to say it the way they say it. The Bing Bang Gang. Bing,
That
bang,
match
gang.
was excellent. I love that. That was my that was my only 3 out of 3 match from the West over the past 2 weeks.
So good. So good.
Jay White rules. He's made for American television. Juice Robinson, what a redemption for this guy. He's really gotten over with me. Yeah.
Had a rough couple years or year and a half. But man, yeah.
Let's see. Let's see. Oh, Nick Wayne Strickland. And I think that kind of covers everything of AEW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
10 minutes.
So
really short.
Meltzer rated Omega, but hasn't rated Bang Bang Gang, Bullet Club Gold versus FTR.
That will be tomorrow.
Okay. Wait, today's Thursday.
Right. The Observer comes out on Friday mornings.
Since when? I thought it came out on Thursdays.
No.
Where have I been?
Where have you been? Come on.
I literally thought it came out on Thursdays. I haven't picked up an issue, quote unquote. I can still log into the website, but I haven't in ages. So yeah, I guess not. I seriously thought it was Thursdays.
No.
Anyway.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, good debut for Nick Wayne. Pretty cool. He's gotten
solid.
he got immediately more publicity and push than any woman in the division ever.
Yeah, I mean Billy Starks was debuted at 18. Yeah. I follow.
She's not as good as Nick Wayne. I'll admit that.
No, she's solid though, and she's only going to get better. But I follow an account that is called AW Enhancement Talent, and they're very good at identifying the enhancement talent. They have one for WWE as well.
Okay.
And it's really great because sometimes you're like, I feel like I recognize that guy. I've seen him in an indie show, but I don't remember his name or whatever. These two accounts that this guy runs, I not only identifies them, says what promotions they're known for.
Mm-hmm.
All in 2 tweets. He usually throws up some photos. But another fan account had said Nick Wayne is the youngest person now to have debuted for AEW, and he goes, hold up. The AEW Enhancement Talent account goes, hold up. You're talking about Dynamite, Rampage, or Collision, you're right. If you go to Dark and Dark Elevation, there were tons of female enhancement talents that debuted under 19, one of whom is now Thea Hale in WWE. I forget what her name was in AEW, but she had a match the exact same age as Nick Wayne, 18 years, 2 days, and it was her very first match ever.
Yep. The women get hold up. The women exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to specify that shit with male now. Yeah.
Anything else in AEW? Did we gloss over anything that needs further discussion? Miro's back. He's doing things. I thought his match with Anthony Henry was really fun. It was short, but it wasn't a total squash. Got to see Anthony Henry be Anthony Henry for a little bit. Other than that, they got to do something with the Acclaimed, man. They got to turn them or something.
No, it's much more important. They do worthless trio squash matches with Billy Gunn.
Oh, it's so bad. They just trot them out. I mean, I understand why they're doing it in cities that they haven't been to yet. Like, that makes sense. They're still going to get a huge pop in these Canadian cities and any city that's a debut, right? But on TV, it feels so stale and forced. It's pretty bad. Although, yeah, that's my thought on that.
Okay, let's talk a little New Japan.
Sure. Done.
And obviously, that's also an excuse for me to play that rockin' entrance music from Julia.
Yeah.
What'd you think of Julia Willow and the tag from the night before? That's my first go. We're going there. Let's do it.
The tag from the night before?
Yeah.
Oh, the big bloody tag.
Yeah, it was Momo Kogo and Willow
Yeah, okay.
against Julia and Tekla.
Oh, the women's tag.
I'm not
Okay,
talking about no
sorry.
men wrestling. Sweaty dudes.
I have to be more specific. Yeah,
Yeah, they had the tag
think-
match the night before. 3 and
Okay,
3/4
yes.
by Big Dave, by the way. And then
Oh.
it was Willow
Yeah, look
losing
at that.
to the Julia in just under 14 minutes. Nice little 3.5-star match. I went just a tad higher myself, 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
What'd you think? What'd you think of the Julia?
okay, so I think by now you know how I feel about the Julia. She rules. She needs to be everywhere. She is made for a Western audience as well. They will just devour her. If
If the
they can
alternative
give
is
her-
she's wrestling on GCW, no thank you. Main eventing
but I
like
thought-
Sumo Hall and Yokohama and stuff to Hartford, Connecticut is not an
Sure.
upgrade by any means.
that's fair.
Have you been to Hartford?
I've been to Hartford.
Mhm.
I feel like I don't know what I've done there.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds right.
I've definitely driven through because you can't get from New Jersey to Massachusetts without driving through Hartford. Well, you can go around if you take the Merit, but
Yeah, you just go through the bridge.
yeah. Anyway,
Really threw you off
Hartford.
there with a million questions.
did about Hartford, Connecticut.
Yeah, so interesting, right? I was just there for work a number of weeks ago too.
But that's only like an hour and a half for you, right?
Yeah, it's
You know
just under
Hartford?
2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an awful town.
Anyway, yeah, it's terrible.
Shitty golf
It's
courses too.
terrible. Really?
Yeah. They
Oh,
weren't
that
good.
makes sense in Hartford. You'd have to go to the fancier parts of Connecticut. Anyway, okay. Tag match. Did a great job of building to the singles match. We were seeing in the tag match that Julia was not taking Willow seriously. So that was cool.
Yeah, it's kind of her attitude. Fucks around with
Yeah.
people. Gets them
Sure.
riled up.
And
Reminds me a
then
lot
we
of
saw-
Naito.
Ooh, I like that comparison.
Mhm.
I hadn't thought of that myself, but as soon as you said it, I knew exactly what you meant. Again, like the spool on your weed whacker.
Mhm. Yeah. Everything comes full circle. It's like a rotation, if you will.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, I totally get the Naito vibe from her now that you say it. She might do it better though. Might be more charismatic somehow.
It's a different charisma.
I mean, she's also like the most attractive woman on the planet, so that definitely doesn't hurt.
It's
oh, man.
being an attractive wrestler certainly does not hurt anybody.
I was looking at her hair at one point during these matches. And I was like, man, you can get away with a lot of crazy, stupid shit when you're hot. It's shaved on one side with a star and some other stuff like carved into, like design. Then it's braid. The rest of it is braided and like multicolor white and dark braids. And then it had these like weird curls at the end. And I was like, that is the ugliest hair I've ever seen. Good thing she's hot because no one else could pull that off.
Yeah, and yet when she like takes pictures by like poolside with it on, you're just like, that's excellent. Wish I could wear that.
But literally, she is the only person I can think of that could pull that off.
Oh yeah, she wears a bunch of wacky things and different outfits, and it's like, yeah, she pulls off anything. It's just what she has going on. Hana Kimura was very much like similar to that. You know,
yeah,
superstars can pull that off.
They absolutely can.
They wear it. It doesn't wear them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Into the match though. So the first Independence Day show I watched with
the American New Japan show on Independence Day
in Japan.
Got it.
So the first show, because it aired here on the 4th, I was off and I was able to watch it when I woke up in the morning and avoid spoilers. The next day,
well, we got our answer. One of our answers.
What was that?
Alex Zane is
where
here.
has Alex Zane been?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, oh, there he is. He's on New Japan Strong.
I know, same. I was like, yes. Oh, and what's his face? Lance Archer is back, and I thought they made a great team. They come out together on day 2, and I'm like, they're like fucking cartoon characters, these two. Like,
yeah, what are they? Monster Sauce?
Right.
Is that what their name
either
was?
Murder Sauce or Monster Sauce. One of the two, because he's the Murder Hawk monster.
Yeah. Either way.
I think commentary said Murder Sauce, but I think Lance said Monster Sauce.
Murder Sauce. The Taco Bell flavor.
I like them both. I like them both. Anyway, they are fucking cartoon characters, and I love them together.
Diablo? You'll be shitting fire with the Murder Sauce for days.
I love how much the Japanese crowd loves these two guys. You just popped yourself.
I did.
I was focused on my
lately.
next thought. I was focused on my next thought, and I didn't get to digest what you had said. But no, Lance Archer is a great heel, but I love him as a face in Japan. I love how much the Japanese crowd loves him. They love Alex Zane. The two of them together could do a lot. But we're getting Lance Archer showing back up in AEW, I think this week. As well, so
yeah, supposedly he's been injured all year, so that's the explanation over where he's been.
I don't know that he's been injured, but whatever.
I don't. Maybe some of it.
He was bitching on Twitter about how he hadn't been on AW in a year, so
yeah, maybe he got injured like right after that. I don't know.
Yeah. What did you? So okay, I keep distracting myself. Anyway, I knew the results of day 2. Before I watched the show, all of them, most of them anyway, including the women's match. So
okay,
I knew there was going to be a title change. It didn't surprise me necessarily or disappoint me, and I don't know if it ruined my enjoyment of the match. I didn't know how or when it was going to happen, and like I said, for the early parts of the match, like, Julia is still doing her shtick where she's like not going to take Willow seriously, but eventually she has to.
Right, because Willow, big girl.
I mean, not just that. I mean, okay, first of all, can we talk? Willow is not that big. She's bigger than the rest of the women around her.
Generally, yeah.
She's But she is not that big. She's not
Well,
tall.
I mean, she's
But
5'6". She's
Yeah, that's what I'm. But she's.
what would you say? She's like 160, 170 tops.
That's what I'm saying. Like that is a
I mean,
very
that's-
normal weight for a normal human woman. For someone we see on TV, it's different, right? Athletes.
Right. For
I'm just saying,
for the
let's-
condition and necessity that athletes of like wrestlers and everything need to be. I mean, you watch some of these like women golfers; they're like maybe 120 because
Right.
just the fitness they got to be in and conditioning they got to be in. I've seen you and I have seen Willow live. She's like
Right.
far from
Okay.
fat by any means. She's in great shape. Like you see her.
Yeah, that's
her
what I'm
waist,
saying. That's
it's
what I'm saying.
really
I just
small.
want to be. I just want to be careful about the words we're using when we're describing women's bodies. That's all.
I do women's
Um,
wrestling like not for a living,
I
but
know.
Yeah.
I know.
I talk about health, fitness, and you know,
I know. but,
wrestling
like,
is an aesthetic
big-
business, and she's aesthetically like fine. There's no issue with Willow. What stands out to Willow versus most other women is her proportions. There's no way around it. She's a little bit taller than the majority of other wrestlers. She's a little bit wider.
Okay. I'm fair
Right?
with that. That is fine. Yes.
You know,
Those are true statements. Yep. That is fine. I'm just I'm a little sensitive because I am a big girl. Much bigger than Willow. So that's all. Just a little sensitive.
gotta give yourself more credit. Anyways,
I am
you know
bigger
what
than
was
Willow,
awesome?
much.
all
what's
of John Moxley and Desperado over those 2 days.
Holy crap. Yeah. And that's why I thought Despy would have been a great pick for Blood and Guts.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, there we go. I cut
I
out.
think. Yep, you're good.
Every single thing that they did over those 2 days was awesome wrestling. When you have death matches and with Jun Kasai, and then you have a main event called
Oh my God.
Final Death Match, it was everything I expected and more. It was better. I mean, John Moxley,
hmm
over these last 4.5 years since leaving WWE, he's really cemented himself as like a Hall of Fame type guy to me,
Sure.
because everything he does has so much energy and excitement to it. He always brings a crowd. He always brings validity to his promos, his matches. His bar moves all the time in the aspect of what he needs to do for a match to get over. In all his aspects, it's
Absolutely.
and it like a lot of people have an issue with his bleeding all the time. I don't. I'm not a wimp.
Oh,
I'm not a critical wimp that does it all. You know, because you know what it is. If it didn't work, he wouldn't do it. Right?
that's true. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
I mean, Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair bled like every fucking big match they ever had. You know,
Yeah.
it was like every
Yeah.
Saturday night they bled buckets all over the ring. Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, all these things. So John Moxley's far from the first person to bleed, but now, you know, over the last 20 years, we're so much of wrestling fandom, and especially in this modern era, everyone's so like sensitized to it instead of what used to be a desensitized in like the ECW era. So someone like okay, here's another example. When Cody bled every match, it became a joke. Because his matches like stopped getting over to an extent. It seemed like overkill. It was always out of like a homage to the past rather than him making it his own. When Moxley bleeds, it feels like his own. Right?
Yeah. It's also a joke with Moxley. Like anytime he doesn't bleed in a match.
Well,
Twitter
yes, I'm
and
not
media
saying
is
there
like,
aren't
holy
jokes
crap.
out there for it.
Yeah.
I'm saying like there's a clear difference in how at least I react to a Cody match bleeding and a Moxley match bleeding.
Yeah. The Cody blood feels more contrived.
Right.
in almost every instance.
Yeah, it's a big difference. So,
Yeah.
Desperado match ruled. The Jun Kasai tag with, can't believe I'm saying this, Homicide also ruled. I
Okay.
actually preferred the tag match over the Desperado singles match. What about you?
Same. I don't know that I had been exposed to Jun Kasai before this. Dude is terrifying.
Oh, he's
Like,
wild.
Holy crap. Like, just, I mean, you know, they're like throwing stuff into the ring and they've got the barbed wire and the forks. The forks got me. Okay. So, holy crap. Like, a lot of the
Very
fork
Abdullah
moves
the
they
Butcher,
did really safely, right? Like, especially in the singles match when Mox is gouging the fork under Desperado's mask. Like, I could tell it was really safe. And even though I watched long enough to tell that it was safe, I had to turn away. Like, forks, man. Apparently that's my new light tube. I just can't watch it because like they had that board full of forks. And I was like, if somebody lands on that, like those tines could go like an inch into your back. Like that is terrifying.
Yeah, and there's definitely I always say this with, well, maybe not always, but when it comes to wrestlers like Kasai, Desperado, Moxley, and company, when they're doing these spots and they're putting matches together, they always are good and rope you into it rather than what you see on like a GCW show in New Jersey, where it just well, it's one of their stomping grounds, where it always comes. You know, I got this at Beyond Wrestling a lot when it just felt like guys hitting each other with shit and they weren't doing anything, going anywhere. It was just walk around, grab the thing, hit each other in the head, it goes bonk, and you move on to the next thing, and you're just like, all right, that guy's bleeding now. Oh, that almost got in my shoes. That's not cool. Okay.
Right. You're right. They do a great job of still having a match, telling a story, making it compelling to watch.
And that matters. There's a huge difference in that. That was an aspect of what made Big Japan take off in the 90s through this huge cult-esque era with their stipulations, its uniqueness, because they didn't have the budget as an FMW or like a star like Onita, but they roped in their ECW was kind of the same way. They roped them in to their own compelling way, and a lot of that is missing through the modern day hardcore and death matches and stuff. Everything is very, well, I'll say it, well, in this case, everyone's first of all desensitized to a lot of the spots, so you have to be a capable person to make it compelling if you're going to go out and do that. Otherwise, you're just hiding the fact that you kind of stink.
Yeah.
You know. Also on that card was the War Dogs from the Bang Bang Club in Japan against Catch 22, Akira, and TJP. That rocked as well. That was great.
Oh yeah. I mean, here in TJP, just not fans. Well, anyway, they do great stuff. Great chemistry, great spots, great everything.
Yeah, I love Francisco Akira. I can watch him all day. He's absolutely my style of wrestler. I almost went 3 out of 3 on it, but I was a coward. I went 2 out of 3.
I always pop for the shoulder spot. Take my picture.
Yeah.
Take my picture.
That's great.
I love it. It's me every time.
Let's see. And then I guess the only real thing left to talk about would be Kingston won the strong title against Kenta, getting him ready for the G1.
Oof.
I don't like that match very much. I thought it kind of wasn't all that good. But hey,
yeah.
Kingston was very emotional. He cut a nice little emotional promo, how much it means to him, blah, blah, blah.
Same. I mean, I know Kenta's not Kenta from 6 years ago. And again, I knew the result of this, and I had already seen the post-match, like Eddie's reaction. So this was not as much fun for me.
Yeah, it doesn't help that the match wasn't all that good.
Right.
Yeah, I think that we can kind of expect that.
It was fine. It was fine.
Fine is fine. Not
Fine is
semi-main event level, but you know.
Yeah.
Is that it? I guess hype for the G1, hype for Stardom Grand Prix coming up, TJPW Princess
Yeah.
Cup. Fuck, we got like 3 hours of AEW this weekend. Fuck else.
Triple Mania.
Well, you could watch Triple Mania.
I'm gonna watch Triple Mania.
What's the
and you
main
can shut
event?
up about it. Kenny Omega versus Vikingo.
Oh, I'll watch that. Okay, you're right.
We also have.
Are you sure
there's
that's the
something
main
going
event
on
and
this-
it's not some
Yes.
wacky like shitty cage match with masks on the line?
Why would I lie?
Would you?
Why would I lie?
Are you trying to trick and fool me?
Why would I? I'm trying to trick you into watching Triple Mania. No, that is 100% the main event. We have some other Western people on there. QT Marshall is on there. I guess he's been doing some work with them. I didn't know about this, but I don't know what his match is. Vert Vixen is on there.
Vert Vixen's gonna what?
Yeah. Huh?
I like Vert Vixen.
She's going to be in Colorado the next day. I haven't bought a ticket yet. Our Lucha promotion that I always say, like, oh, this card looks so good, and I never buy a ticket. But Ray Phoenix is actually going to be in the main event in the Colorado Lucha show on Sunday, so I'm tempted.
I think you gotta go.
Yeah, let me look
How
up
come
that
you get
card
better
again.
cards than I do in New England now?
It's just this Lucha promotion. It's crazy.
It's not fair. I'm gonna
Um,
move to Denver. What the fuck am I doing?
you can move here. It's not cheaper
Well,
anymore.
Rhode Island and
Okay,
Denver.
so
I don't know. It seemed pretty comparable.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it might be comparable at this point. It's not cheaper. Okay, PJ Black versus Ray Phoenix is the main event.
For an indie show, I'd go to that. Yeah,
PJ Black. Why does that? I know who that is. Who is PJ Black? Was he someone else?
he was in
Why
the
do I know who
Nexus
PJ
once
Black
upon a time.
is? Okay, Vert Vixen is against Dolce Tormenta.
You'll like that.
Yeah. Arrow Boy versus Misterioso.
That's good. Nice little high-flying
This
match.
picture's cut off a tag match. Two local people. This one's cut off too. Oh, Tyra versus Hija de Fuerza Guerrero.
Not
I don't know.
familiar.
It's cut off. I can't see her name. Hang on. I'm looking for the full size photos. Why are these all cut off?
You're so baffled and perplexed.
This promotion, you can only buy tickets at the venue.
Okay.
Like, you have to go there in person. You can't buy tickets online. They don't really have an online presence. So I'm not surprised. Okay. Ultra Tormenta, yeah. Yeah. Hija de Fuerza Guerrera. Masked luchadora.
Could
Is that
be
what
good.
female
See some new
luchadoras are
talent.
called? Luchadoras?
Yeah.
Are they called luchadoras?
Yeah.
Okay. I just made that up in my brain. So, yeah. Okay. General
Call it like Fuego
Okay.
Joshi or something.
tickets are $35.
Well, you're bringing in a lot of international talent. I could see why it would be 35 as opposed to like a
Matt
$25
Cross is on this
cost.
show.
Who?
Matt Cross.
He's cool to see. I like watching Matt Cross.
I love Matt Cross.
I think you got to go to the show.
Also, the Yankees are in town. What if I go to the baseball game?
You don't want to see the Yankees.
I'm not going to because I refuse to
that requires you go to a Denver game.
The problem is I refuse to give the Rockies ownership my money.
Yeah,
So
I would too.
I literally made a post earlier today saying, is anyone giving away tickets because I refuse to give them on for it's my money.
Right. Sell them to the Walmart
I-
family already.
Just sell the fucking team for
Yeah.
fuck's sake.
I
You
did
clearly
wear
don't
my
care.
Colorado Rockies hat golfing because the catcher got the MVP in the All-Star game, as everyone expected the All-Star game to come
Right.
down to was a Colorado Rockies player.
Always, sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, not to say that there haven't been phenomenal Rockies players, but they're all Yankees now. So, I mean, no, but like literally,
They do all go to the AL East.
Pulo,
They either go to the
LeMahieu,
Cardinals or the AL East.
Tulowitzki, LeMahieu, Ottavino. There was another infielder that went from Colorado to the Yankees. Where did Ubaldo? Not Ubaldo. Where did fucking?
Well, Jimenez went to
Nolan Arenado went to St. Louis,
Yeah.
and the Rockies are still paying for that. The Rockies paid St. Louis $50 million to take a Gold Glove third baseman off their hands. They are still paying. Oh my God. This is why I refuse to give them my money.
And people wonder why I wear a Blue Jays hat mostly these days.
Fuck, dude.
That's why.
Fuck.
It's shit like that. Oh God. Yeah, we're going to turn into a hate Rockies rant, but
Oh, you should see Rocky's Twitter. It is disgusting in the best way. I love it.
yeah, when they're competing for the worst team in baseball with the Royals and Athletics, you're pathetic.
I mean, their ownership literally comes out and says, like, we're okay if we finish 500.
No. When they paid for Arenado to leave the team, they said,
saying.
the ownership and management said, we can compete this year. They proceeded to get last. And people called them out on it, saying you're dumb.
Fucking morons.
I read an
They
article
don't
a number
care
of years ago that described the Rockies as a management with the outlook of a team from 1996. It's a boys' club, and they don't care.
They make money. And even when they were doing well, but you can get in for like $6. They have tickets where you can get in for like $20, and it includes a beer and a hot dog. Like, they now have like GA tickets where you don't even get a seat and you just, grab a beer and walk around, because people, like young people, people under 30, will buy a ticket to the game and just use it as an excuse to drink beer and hang out with their friends because it is cheap.
It's a bad team.
Yep. And ownership doesn't give a fuck. So
In my case now, it's go Blue Jays. So fuck the Rockies.
Fuck the Rockies. Maybe I will go to Lucha on Sunday instead of the game. So nobody's offered me a ticket yet. So literally, if I don't get a free ticket, I'm not going.
To go to Lucha. Way better.
That's
I'll watch
also
Ray
not
Phoenix and Matt
free.
Cross. That sounds like it rules.
They're not against each other, but I would like to see both of them, yes, in person.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a must go.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about WC. That felt like kind of the end of the cast, weirdly enough, but
It did.
we do have to suffer through the start of WCW 2000. Here's the drop. Oh my God, we are in the year 2000.
Yeah.
The worst year possibly in any professional wrestling organization on television that has ever happened. And 1 year ago, at least in WCW's world, was the Finger Poke of Doom, which I'm sure you've heard of.
I have.
So on the commentary team today is Tony Schiavone, Mike Tenay, Bobby Heenan. I bring that up because we're going to get some changes as the year goes on, including wacky Stevie Ray coming in and out of the booth because they find him funny.
Man.
He is kind of funny, to be honest. So they're in Greenville, South Carolina, a far cry from the Georgia Dome. Yeah, filling that up.
Yep.
Rickee, was there wrestling on this show?
No.
Okay, I didn't think
That's
so.
what I was saying earlier in the podcast when we were talking about, like, I tuned in for a wrestling show. Where is the wrestling? No, okay, let me go to my notes. I mean, obviously there's a cage match that lists matches, but none of these were actually matches.
No.
Literally every single one on Cage Match under 5 minutes. Not a single
Well, hold on.
match.
Everything was 3 minutes, and then you had the Barn Burner Marathon that was Crowbar and David Flair against Lash LaRue and Midnight that went 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay. Fair.
Yeah.
And the main event was 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
Fucking
Were there
horrid show.
were there any 15-minute segments that didn't have the NWO?
Ooh. They were
Because
up and
literally they
down this
popped
entire
up.
show.
They popped up every 5
So
seconds.
let's see
it
here.
felt
They
like.
began the
I
show.
don't-
They began the show with talking about a new commissioner to put the NWO in its place. The NWO then talked about how that's not going to stop them. What are you doing? Then they went to a limo. They said someone was going to come out of the limo. They skipped that part. Then they had a match against PG-13. Could not believe my eyes. I'm like,
They
I don't-
rapped.
Then okay, they I guess they so the
Then
3-hour
there was-
show's
wait.
over. And now it's only like an hour and a half.
Yeah, thank God it's only 2-hour show, and with no commercials, like an hour and 37.
It's so
Thank
like
God.
just in that aspect, it's so much better.
Okay, so
Literally half the time
Then-
is cut. It's awesome.
I think I mentioned this on the last podcast. So I no longer have access to Peacock. So we downloaded
Yeah, your little
The only
VHS
version-
copies. I love it.
the only version that we could find. It's a VHS rip, and it's not just a rip of like WCW videos. These people taped it off TV
Yeah,
because
it's
there
amazing.
are commercials.
That is
There are
amazing.
I got an AOL commercial in the middle, in between a couple
Oh, so
matches.
you heard the little
Then I wrote,
AOL ding from the 2000s?
no, I don't. It was really short. I
Oh,
don't think that
okay.
was in there. But then I wrote, bored of this NWO promo. Isn't this a wrestling show?
No.
Then Daphne and David Flair come out.
Oh my god, they were also all over this show.
Not as much as the NWO though.
No,
Nowhere
but
near as much. It was fine.
we got
they're
them like
popping up-
4 times.
I think 3, maybe
Well,
4, because Daphne
3
got
quote
kidnapped.
unquote matches, but they had a backstage segment, I think, which was all
Oh, she got-
4th
It was just her getting kidnapped.
Right. By
Which
Jeff
took
Jarrett.
all of 10 seconds. I wasn't sure, and then later on commentary they said it was the NWO.
Yeah, because
Oh,
kidnapping
speaking of
Daphne
Jeff-
is very important.
Speaking of Jeff Jarrett,
Whew.
one of my friends on Twitter today, I'm going to present this without context. But earlier today, she said, Crocodile Dundee is just Australian Jeff Jarrett. I will send you the thread. So
I mean,
you
I
can
could
see
definitely picture
in
it.
context. Yeah, it's
Definitely
fucking
picture
great.
it.
It's fucking great.
So let's see
Um,
here. We got okay. So did you notice on this show? It's either filled with wacky like character jobbers mixed in with like people from the past of like gimmicks from 10 years ago, like in the late 80s, early 90s.
Okay, so I don't know what's 80s or 90s. Like to me, anything before 2000 is like old to me.
So it was like trying to continue. Well, I guess Harlem Heat's a bad example, but the Varsity Club is kicking about, like shit like that.
Okay, but see, like I didn't watch wrestling in the 90s, so I didn't know that was an old thing at this point.
Oh yeah, they're even cutting their promos like it's 1986, where it's like it's Rotunda in the Syracuse jacket, and he's talking to the crowd, and he was talking about whatever South Carolina college. He's like, you don't deserve to wear orange. And then there's so many piped in sounds throughout the show. Did you notice
Oh
that?
my god.
Just
don't think I did, and that's
so
probably
much
just
canned
a
noise.
that's probably just a symptom of the VHS audio. Didn't notice. I don't know who there was like a knockoff Sting at one point. Who was that person?
Oh, that's Lex Luger again. That's actually funny.
Okay, I didn't get that.
Yeah, he did that. He did that the week prior, where he's fake Sting, and he's talking about him being Sting, getting beat up by the total package. Lex Luger being like, Lex Luger's so awesome. I got my ass kicked. Woo!
I don't even know what happened there.
That was okay. That whole segment was so weird because, like, I admit I'm laughing at Lex Luger mocking Sting. Just in that tiny little vacuum space. Everything surrounding that segment, I'm just looking at it going, what am I watching? Because this is how events go down. He comes out, he cuts the wacky promo that I enjoy. And then it just falls apart, which is very apt of WCW right now. Everything falls apart. Even if something's good, it will eventually crumble before you. So Tank Abbott randomly walks out because the total package says, because Sting, again, he's referring to himself as Sting in this joke, because Sting lost, he needs a jobber in the back for an enhancement match so he can get his heat back. He's saying this shit. And then Tank Abbott rolls out, and Lex Luger is afraid because Tank Abbott's a shooter, brother. And he gets in the ring, package kind of hightails it away, and from who beats up Abbott from? Oh, you know what? Abbott gets maced by Elizabeth, and that's the DQ in like a minute. Okay, I didn't even know a match started.
I don't think any matches. And
no, I'm not done because it's the whole segment.
Finish.
I got to do this because I remember it very vividly for whatever reason. So Abbott's like standing. He's like, "Oh, my eyes hurt. Oh God, it's like lemon. Oh," but it's mace. And Package walking away. Fucking leg kick shooter guy from the boiler room. I can't remember his name right now. It doesn't matter. He comes out because they're going to have a match in the block at Sold Out. That's their pay-per-view. And he kicks him in the face a couple times and then leaves. And you got commentary going, man, they're really going to handle this in the block at Sold Out. I can't wait. Can you wait to see that? And Bobby Heenan is very drunk. And he's just purposely like mispronouncing words worse than usual. He's just taking the shit out of everything, which is entertaining in its own right. And all of that's going on. The camera like zooms back to Lex Luger and Elizabeth walking up the ramp. They turn around and there's a crow. Caca. Spooky. And you got commentary again going, oh, look, it's a bird. That's definitely because Sting is coming for... But this camera's like zoomed out and it looks so weird. Production's bad. Everyone's mic'd terribly. No one knows what's ever going on next. And they're always telling you, like in every promo just about, it's either breaking the fourth wall of wrestling, where it's like, it's a shoot, brother. Or they're telling you the WCW sucks, right? So everything's fake and WCW sucks. That's what they're telling us over the last 2 weeks, over and over again. Like Lex Luger's cutting promos about management doesn't give him this and that. This company stinks, and it's just over and over again, up and down. Scott Steiner saying that shit. I'm baffled watching all this. I'm like, who can enjoy this? Would you enjoy it if someone told you the show, like, if the wrestlers were telling you the show sucks, management sucks, why are you watching it then? Oh, well, okay. If they think it sucks, then I guess it does.
Exactly. It makes no sense. Nothing made sense. And then, oh my God, then there's another fucking promo about Terry Funk again.
Oh yeah, we never mentioned Terry Funk is revealed as the general manager.
Okay, so we're 45 minutes. We're 45 minutes into the show. There has been 5 minutes of wrestling so far, if that. And they do this super long, like administrative promo about the new thing. They
Oh
introduced
my
Terry
God, yeah.
Funk.
That was the worst thing on the show.
It's so long. It's so long, and it's just about bureaucracy. And then Arn Anderson comes out looking exactly the same then as he does now.
Whoa, hold on. So, a representative of WCW from, like, the Turner office comes out, and it's not a promo. It's like you said, it's like a bureaucratic speech over, we've hired this guy in charge, and he's stumbling over his words, slurring a couple things. He's clearly uncomfortable on the microphone in front of a crowd. And then he just goes, and the new commissioner is Terry Funk. And here we are expecting him this whole show to, like, be revealed coming out of the limousine that they plugged and showed, like, going down the road and all with security. And the NWO is, like, sitting outside the limo with security holding him off. And I'm like, okay, this could actually be all right. And nope, we skip all of that. And he's just walking down the ramp.
I mean, what? Why is this on a wrestling show?
So Terry Funk
Was
says
this
he's
the
the
wrestling
commissioner. He
show?
likes this. He likes that. He's going to do this. He's going to stop the NWO and the powers that be. He's naming Ed Ferrari, not Ferrara,
Yeah,
and
whoever.
Vince Russo by name, along with saying the NWO will not run things, and he has brought an enforcer because he needs someone to whip him into shape. And it's another old guy who can't wrestle from the past. It's Arn Anderson. I'm like, okay, I respect Arn Anderson, but this dude hasn't wrestled in years due to injury, like career-ending neck surgery. And Nash comes out and calls him, like, dead man walking, cripple. Terry Funk's, like, got a foot in the grave because he's old. And it turns out they were right, because they fucking kidnap him, stuff him in a trunk, and leave at the end of the show.
I have nothing. This show actively angered me. Like, the past few, I've just been like, okay, this is bad, but, like, I can enjoy it because it's, you know, silly wrestling nonsense. This actively made me angry.
You like how every tag tournament match had, like, someone beat up a partner or interfere from the outside to beat up a partner and then leave? That's how they won.
I don't think there was a single match that ended cleanly.
No.
Or without some kind of interference. Then, wait. The first... sorry. I need to make sure we talk about this. The first David Flair match against Lash LaRue and Midnight. There was
the
so
fact that
much
you had to say the first David Flair match.
There was so much interference in this match. The ref, like, there is, like, part of it, he goes to the outside, he tries to stop people. Instead of calling the match off, he's just pushing people around, or, you know, I can't control this and whatever. Like, what is even the point of having a ref? Like, was that even a match? Oh my God, it was so aggravating. Oh God.
Also, multiple times in multiple tag matches, a random person came into the match and became the new tag partner in a lethal lottery. Nothing matters. Nothing matters.
Then there was another NWO segment. Then there was a backstage segment with the Authority people. Then Buff Bagwell cut a promo with somebody with champagne because it's New Year's, and you're like, okay, that bottle's going over somebody's head. Surely,
that was Chris. Yeah, that was Chris Canyon. Yep.
Oh yeah, Chris Canyon. Okay.
Got thrown off the stage by Bam Bam Bigelow. Guess that was.
Yeah, I heard the name Canyon later, and I was like, is that Canyon Seaman? Who is Canyon? I mean, obviously, I knew it wasn't Canyon Seaman because I know he's not a wrestler, but he's a wrestling. He's wrestling adjacent, you know, in wrestling. Anyway, okay, Norman, whatever, Smiley, whatever his name is, Norman, who was a football player before. Now he's a mascot.
Yeah, he's just wearing a bunch of gimmicks. Don't worry about him. Anyways, let's just skip to the end here. So there was a powerbomb match.
Wait. Before we get to the end, I have a serious question, and I don't mean to be insensitive because I know how popular this person is, but
Oh.
what is Hacksaw Jim Duggan's gimmick? What
He is a
his
janitor.
appeal?
In WCW right now,
Okay.
he is a janitor.
Okay.
Exciting,
Okay.
isn't it?
That's fine. Why
He loves
do
America, by the
people-
way.
Yeah, I caught that from the pay-per-view that we watched. I don't see the appeal. Was he somewhere? Where was he before WCW? Where was he after? Why do people have this? And I don't mean to be insensitive because I know he is a popular figure. I need to see something.
Well, he was a popular
shows me why he's
wrestler
popular.
in the 80s, I believe.
Okay.
In what was it? Georgia Championship? I can't remember.
Okay.
But Hacksaw was extremely popular. He took that popularity to the WWF. Essentially, that's where he became Super America guy and got
Okay.
super over.
Okay.
Kind of near the end of his career, and then once that stint was over, he went to WCW. He's been there ever since. And at this point now, they want to use him again, and because he's kind of old and they see him as a simpleton, they treat him like he's a dumb American guy who loves America, and he carries a 2x4 around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the 2x4 about? That goes back to the 80s.
Well, he's Hacksaw, so he carries a 2x4.
Why doesn't he carry a saw?
Well, you can't carry a saw. That's a weapon. How dare you?
And a 2x4 is not a weapon?
Well,
What the fuck?
it can be. It doesn't have to be.
Dear Lord. When has he not used it as a weapon?
Well, don't worry about that part.
Okay. All right, let's skip to the end.
Okay,
I did answer some
so
questions, though. Thank you. Sorry.
yeah, so Terry Funk, Mr. Commissioner guy, says Jeff Jarrett has to defend his U.S. title against Sid Vicious in a powerbomb match because the first one went so well against Kevin Nash. Now, he says to Bret Hart that he will defend the title against, I forget who cares, at Sold Out, and if the NWO cause a DQ, he will be stripped of the title and lose. Okay?
Okay. Yep. I'm with you.
Why wouldn't he just do that for all NWO matches?
Yeah.
Because the very first NWO match that he booked ended in a DQ by the NWO.
Sure did.
Sure did.
Sure did.
And then we get to the finals, and I'm sure everyone would be just scrounging up $60 immediately to see this main event.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Nash and Scott Steiner in the finals against David Flair and Crowbar for the World Tag Team titles.
And then the bell rings, but there's no ref.
There's no referees in the match. Kevin Nash and Scott Steiner proceed to beat their ass, jokingly, mind you, for a couple minutes, all for interference. Who was it by? Was it Sid?
No. Oh,
Who the fuck
was there
was it?
interference? There was interference before Terry and Arn came down?
I'm trying to remember who caused the interference, though.
I don't remember. Was it just the rest of the NWO?
Let's see. It was. Let's see. Here comes Terry Funk and Arn Anderson in a ref shirt. Crowbar gets jackknife as
Yes,
security,
that's what I
and
just said.
Funk yell at Steiner. Okay, I forgot about the security part.
Yeah,
Funk
so
yell at Steiner.
Terry,
The distraction lets Crowbar hit Nash with a crowbar. Get it? And then David Flair gets the pin and the titles. Hooray.
no, Arn hit Nash with the crowbar.
Mm,
I'm 90% sure Arn used maybe he gave Crowbar the crowbar. Arn definitely had the crowbar. Anyway, match ends. Flair and Crowbar win. Then David Flair grabs the crowbar and hits Arn.
cool.
And then I could have misheard this. So then there's like a whole NW beatdown or whatever, and the show's going off the air.
Yep, tagging guys like it's 1998. You know,
I could have misheard this, but I'm pretty sure I heard Tony Schiavone say, "This is the price you pay for fucking the NWO."
sure, I guess.
Could he have said that on cable television
Yeah,
in 2000?
I don't
know.
think he cares anymore. The new champs stumble away, and the NWO swarms Terry Funk. Great commissioner right there, gonna fight him back. Brett and Jeff kidnap Arn Anderson, throw him in the trunk of a car to end the show, and the new champs are a complete afterthought, probably for the best considering it's David Flair and Crowbar.
Tony says, "This is the price you pay for fucking the NWO."
Yeah,
because Tony has no shits left to give about
Don't blame him.
WCW at this point.
and that'll do it for our show today.
Right.
We are in the year 2000 of WCW. Oh no! See you next
Oh
time.
no! Bye.